He didn't play the real music. Play that song.
Hey, what's going on, man? I know y'all heard Miss Naj in the background. It's so good having her here today. Well, what is going on Facebook? What's going on Twitter? What's going on? Man, where are we at? We on YouTube. We everywhere that you can find us. Welcome to the Genesis Block today. Genesis Block Live this Monday at August the 16th at 11:16. It is so good to have y'all back on here this morning. I know we kind of cut short last week because of the sound. I'm leaving it up to y'all out there in streaming land to tell me if the audio's all good today. But I'm again, like I said, it's so good having Miss Naja back today. Good having you, Miss Naja. Gotta get Zay back in here. I know Zay's on his book tour, so he's kind of few and far between, but it's all good, man. Today, you guys came up with a news story that I hadn't even really thought about, but I think it's a little bit of a speculative news story about Walmart. Coach Ken, was you the one brought that story up? Like, start that off, man. We was having a good discussion about that. What y'all think about Walmart and cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, so Ian and I both mentioned it. I think we were both headed on the same tangent, but just like Amazon has been doing, is what I was saying. Amazon has been keeping it kind of close to the chest what they want to do with cryptocurrency projects and, how they want to be advised on it. And at first they even denied it. But now it looks like Walmart is kind of doing the same thing. And they're looking for a lead position to help them advise their dealings or their future projects that they may be interested as far as crypto goes. I think Charlene and Josh had the actual title that they're looking for. It's like a level 2 position, they said, but I'm not familiar with the whole title, so maybe they can clarify that. But Walmart is now investigating the use of crypto in their I guess long-term strategy, I guess you could say.
Could you imagine, Coach Ken, that Walmart wind up utilizing miners for their blockchain, and in like August they take off? They might have 17 miners running, but they only run one at a time. Yeah, I think that's what Walmart would do with their blockchain. They would like have 17 miners that was supposed to be running, and they would only run one at a time, and actually get you to go over in the corner and mine your own blocks for a little bit. I think that's what they would do if they got into blockchain. But yeah, go ahead, Miss Charlene.
Yeah, so it says the title of the role is the digital currency or cryptocurrency lead, and that person is responsible for developing the digital currency strategy and product roadmap. So it sounds like Walmart is kind of doubling down on using blockchain, and it sounds like it's a pretty high level position as well. I actually think that it could be a good look for some folks. I mean, the cost of living in Arkansas, again, depending on how you roll, what you like, and the communities that you're used to, Arkansas could be a come up. You could get a mansion and whatever you wanted. You'd probably be almost a C-suite position, probably with promotion opportunities. You probably gonna know more than anybody in the company. So I mean, I think it could be a great opportunity for anybody trying to move in the space quickly.
Fred, is that something that you would be interested in doing? Fred, is that something that you would be interested in doing?
What, we still talking about Arkansas?
Yes, Fred, yes.
I think you just answered.
My point exactly.
That would be a negative.
But this depends on who you are. Some people can deal with those kinds of cities. It all depends on who you are. Your hustle.
You'll be balling though, right?
Listen,
like in Arkansas, you can get a lot of land and a really nice home.
I say you stay in that road for 18 months and bounce.
You be
But
balling.
I just gotta be
You
real
have
with
on
y'all.
clothes and everybody else have on pajamas with no teeth. Fred, you be in it.
But I just
No.
got to be real with y'all. Like
I'm good on
about 2 years ago, we started a group on Facebook called Boycott the Silent, and it basically was to boycott any of the companies that didn't speak out about the plight of African Americans in this country. That group grew to about 134,000 people, right? And so what we agreed to as a group was to boycott Walmart. I have not been to Walmart since. Like, I haven't been to Walmart in like 2 years. So I don't think I would even want to go work for them if I'm going to boycott them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I haven't been to Walmart
Exactly.
either. But I think that Walmart was having a problem some years ago with how they were treating employees with like benefits or something. And since then, I never went back. I didn't like the abuse I was getting at Walmart anyway. Not only do the employees treat you bad, but the other customers are not nice to you. It's not a nice place to be all the time.
Yeah, it really is a
I go to
class.
Target anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Walmart's almost like a certain type of people, a certain look. And I mean, I think it was designed that way in the beginning. I don't go to Walmart, can't stand Walmart. I go to Target. So,
Oh my! Hey,
I
hold
think
on.
that was
Was
the
that
issue.
was that Greg?
Tajay.
Hold on, was that Greg? Hold on, hold on. Was that Greg? We gotta listen. I'm gonna let y'all know something.
Tajay.
We have y'all heard Greg? Where Greg been at? We gonna have to throw him a party like the prodigal son. He done been out there laying with the pigs.
I've been in court. Has been crazy because they've been, the courts have been going back regular schedule. And so it's just been insane. I just got off court a second ago and jumped right on, and I got to go back in like 40 minutes. But it's just been crazy because they're trying to get things going. But with this Delta, that we maybe get back shut down. I don't know what's going to happen with this.
Man,
Where the
that's
chef
crazy.
at? Somebody killed a
Quavo's here
fatted cow.
too. Quavo's here too, though.
What?
I mean,
hold on. What is
my
going
God.
on? Hold on. Everybody just stop 1 second. Crypto Quavo is in the building. Huh?
Understand this and
Understand this only. What is going on? Did y'all? Look.
It's a miracle.
We missed y'all.
This is what I'm saying. Come on.
Hey, I
Crypto
tried to tell man,
Quavo.
Go ahead, Chris.
Dog then came back.
So check it. Understand this and understand this. This is a new anthem for my crypto junkies. Anthem to the bank, I made a meal off my celly, and I'm still straight from the shell. Nothing you can tell me cause it's crypto.
Hey, man.
Quavo.
So listen. So we got Quavo back. We got Greg back, lawyer Esquire Smith back on the platform. What is going on today, y'all? Miss Naja's back. We got Natalie up here. Y'all brought the wrong person.
Granny's in the building.
Granny, CJ. Oh my, y'all don't know how.
Y'all better
I
get
am
that
so
screenshot.
hyped right now. I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
Today. We got the extended clip.
The
today.
Extendo Toshi in the building. Our local designer out here in these streets. We got Redrick. We got Jacome. I mean, the whole squad is here. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. And we got our homeboy that from across the street, Lawrence. Our cousin, our black and bullish cousin from across the street over at Twitter Spaces. Lawrence Douglas in the building. Y'all, I am so amped right now. Like, for real. Here's what's so crazy. It's a slow news day. So it's like a really slow news day. The one thing most people want us to talk about is that Bitcoin price has pumped. We almost at 47, 48K right now. That's one thing people want to talk about. But I just want to talk about the love that I have for this group, man. Because listen, y'all, we started this. We coming up on a year. I think it'll be a year in December. Right? We just a little bit away from a year right now. And all of y'all still here, man. And I just want to say, round of applause, man. I mean, straight up. I just want to give everybody a round of applause for that, man. Because, listen, this is what they always say we can't do. They always try to say that we as black folk can't come together. They try to say we as black folk not only can't come together, but we can't work together. And I'm going to tell you right now, this group of individuals on this stage, they give tirelessly. Right? We had some supporters early on. Clubhouse kind of fell off. Our supporters fell off, but guess who didn't fall off? The black Bitcoin billionaires. Because we on a mission out here to make sure that we utilize Bitcoin to help end this wealth gap and to cut down on economic oppression of our people. So I just want to say shout out to every last one of y'all for being off in here today. Like, y'all know how happy I am, man. Like, I'm over here with a lot of joy in my heart because I'm looking at a full stage of people who've been down since the beginning, and I appreciate all of y'all. Like, real talk. This is gangster. This is all the way gangster. So thank y'all. Anyway, let's get back to our because I'm over here. I ain't gonna lie, I'm elated. They talk about black boy joy. This is black man joy. I ain't gonna call myself no boy. I've been a man too long, but I'm gonna be like, this is black man joy right here. You understand what I'm saying? I really feel true joy for all of y'all. Valo came up. What is this? Are y'all trying to is this like a Black Bitcoin billionaire intervention? What we doing? Are we just getting ready to go to DC?
Today. I thought your birthday today.
Man, no, my birthday is a long way away, bro. Like all of y'all came through on the same day. I appreciate it. Matter of fact, everybody out there in the sharing world, make sure y'all share this thing. Make sure y'all share this everywhere you possibly can. Hit share. If you're on Twitter, go to Black Bitcoin Billionaires and share that. If you're on Facebook, go to Big Mar. Go to the Black Bitcoin Billionaire page and share that. Share this everywhere you possibly can. Real talk, because this is what we need. But anyway, y'all. So we talked about Walmart. Is there any other news stories that y'all want to talk about? I know one of the things that was hot this last weekend is that we had a good conversation about race, as we tend to do here on Clubhouse. We had a good conversation about race, and does Bitcoin actually solve racism? Do y'all want to discuss a little bit of that with this all-star cast we got up here?
Well, I'll say something real quick.
Here we
I'll
go.
say it doesn't. It may not solve racism, but if you look at technology, the history of it, if you look at the cotton gin, which is a technology, it made it to where the production of cotton increased. And when you have an increase of supply, it forced the prices to go down, which pissed off the merchants, which is the Northerners. And that's what eventually led to slavery being abolished and freeing us through technology. And I feel like Bitcoin is in a similar type situation, just, not necessarily slavery, but that wealth gap that we're talking about. I feel like through the technology, we can make some empowerment. So I'm all for it.
I think it certainly levels the playing field. I don't know that it's going to solve the problem, but it allows more people to get into a space that would not have had access to.
Dog going on.
That sounds like the Dogecoin dog trying to get you.
I thought that was
She's letting
Cujo.
that dog
I thought
off
that
the
was
chain.
Cujo.
Dr. Schiller, are you still there? Dr. Schiller,
He's trying to handle Cujo.
I'm still here.
It's a life check right here. Checking for breath.
The thing is, she's so little, and she just has to be barking at everything. I don't know why little dogs do that.
That's because she's so little. She can't whip nobody, so she just bark.
She needs some infused truth.
But look, we'll let Dr. Schiller come back. People are laughing on Facebook, Dr. Schiller.
That's a baby Cujo. Y'all remember that movie Cujo?
Brother Greg, everybody don't remember that movie.
I was actually going to say Cujo. Greg stole it from me. That's hilarious. Don't worry, I'm with you, Greg.
Thanks. And that's a classic, man. Y'all need to go back and look at it. It's funny when I started talking about films, and then I started saying, I was like, wait a second, half of y'all wasn't even born when this
right.
film was out.
I was gonna say I need a
Betamax
time
movie.
on that,
Greg, what you got?
No, so the whole thing is that we had a good discussion, because one of the things we realized, and I'll just go back to it a little bit. One of the things we realized is that some people are not intentionally pushing a white supremacist ideology. They just have never learned anything else. There were so many incidents that we taught people that they had no clue even happened in this country, right? And I was in the room this morning and everybody was discussing like World War I and World War II and what happened and what the general did and what happened if Hitler didn't invade Russia and all of these things, right? And I was listening to that and I was thinking to myself, some of these people on this stage know more stuff about international history than they do of the history of African Americans in this country. Like, they were having complete deep thoughts about this, and I didn't get a chance to really voice it, but I was going to be like, look, man, it's crazy that people in this country, in this very country, know more about what happened in Germany, know more about what happened in France than they even know what happened to African Americans in this country and the things that we've contributed and the things that we've gone through and the things that we built. And I mean, it's like amazing to me. It's mind blowing to me that American history doesn't include African American history. And I think,
well, I mean,
yeah, go ahead. It's what,
I was gonna say, when you really think about it, Mar, it's just one one of those two histories you just compared, one was written and put in the books, the other one was not. So most of those people got what was given to them through the education. I'm putting up my air quotes education system, and that's why that history is omitted. They know nothing of it because there was nobody there to hand it down to them, and they surely did not seek it out.
Yeah, and then the other piece of that is that, you know what I mean, that part of their history is shameful. And that those stories, they don't want to be told because it doesn't look honorable at all. And you know what I mean, to look at that generations back, like, yo, that was my grandfather, he did that. Or, you know, my people did this or that. So, yeah, you definitely, you see that. And then the other thing I see is like with those, with different cultures, the only thing they can kind of relate to in our plight is a different part of the quadrant, which is classism. And they confuse classism with racism or like the idea of having money. Like that's the part of the quadrant they more so understand is like have and have not. And the way people are treated in terms of classism, but not understanding the racism part and that they're not the same, like they have differences.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think to your point, Black Regal, about the shame and the guilt, I mean, I think that's real. And I think humans, by definition, don't like to be uncomfortable. I think that whole conversation makes a lot of white people very uncomfortable and they'd rather not engage. And it's a very intentional decision. I think that the amount of information that is available today about history, particularly the impact of Black Americans in this country, if at this point, if you've not taken that chance or that opportunity to understand it, then I'm assuming it's intentional because there's just no excuse. To your point, Lamar, I mean, I've heard folks wax poetic about the dynasties in China, deep history about Germany, wonderful history about all these other countries, but they have decided not to take the time to understand the history right here in the United States because it's uncomfortable. And the last thing I'll say, and you guys have heard this before, but there's an African proverb that says, until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter. So, I'm less interested in making other people understand the impact and more interested in ensuring that the Black community knows how to pivot and they know how to move forward, because we have to assume that there's some people that do not want to know, because to know means you have to acknowledge and accept it and do something about it.
But I'm gonna just be fair, Miss Charlene. I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna push back a little bit because it's what I was laughing at. All that stuff they were talking about with Hitler and Russia and all of that, I didn't know. Right? I was not intentional. I have not been intentional about learning about World War II. Right? Because it's not something that has ever been in my wheelhouse. You get what I'm saying? So as human beings, like our intentionality usually comes from the people that we are around, and it comes from a certain perspective. And that's why I feel like we have to open our minds up to other perspectives so that everyone will have an opportunity. And when we have an opportunity to educate, then we educate. And if they don't get it after we educate, that's on them. But I think we have to open up the mindset so that we understand that everybody didn't come up how we did. Like a lot of us learned about Black history in the home, at church, in the barbershop, right? At the park.
Lamar, stop right there for a minute, Mar. You said it. Here's the shift. And I only can say this because I got a few years. Not, I don't know if I'm the oldest person in the room, but hopefully not. I feel like I'm 29. But the reality is our parents educated us on what was going on. So there was in our homes, there was this sense of education. When they began to talk about my in-laws, they were in the marches in DC. My parents came from Arkansas, from the cotton fields. So there was this sense of you need to understand your history. And even though, yes, we're in the North now, we're in Michigan. We went to Michigan. Black Regal knows we're in Kalamazoo. But
that migration.
Exactly. We migrated up because Detroit was like the big mega, that's where everybody went to get jobs and especially Black folks. I'm talking about a lot of places like that because they had car industries and you could get a job there and make a ton of money and really support your family. And so that's the big difference. I'm not sure if we see that in our communities now where the parents have taken on that role to say, hey, you need to understand where we came from.
Yeah, just to slightly build on that.
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Brother Lawrence.
Yeah, really quickly, I was just going to say to build on that, like data backs that. And say like for adult people, once we get to that age, 70% of our learning took place in informal settings. Like we learn very, very little truly from sitting down in a structured education, kind of forum. It's taking that time and opportunity to teach and instruct and let people know what's going on. That's how people really, really learn. Go right ahead, Jay.
So I just wanted to add that a very important caveat, because there's a lot of discussion every time a movie or something comes about around Black people in our history. There's a lot of pushback, no more Black trauma, no more Black trauma movies. And I get it. There should definitely be balance. And I agree that we need more robust content. But I'm not with eliminating that, because as the brother just said, this education used to be in our homes. We would have conversations about it. Our parents had books about it. But the kids aren't getting it because we have a large group of us who are like, no more Black trauma movies. But our existence here has, among other things, been traumatic. So it's hard to deal with some of our stories without dealing with that aspect of it. So it's just something to keep in mind, that, we also don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because then our kids aren't going to know anything if we're not creating content that specifically addresses, and not just our downfalls, but our triumphs, our contributions to this country, from everything from technology to cuisine to inventions to education to entrepreneurship. I'm a descendant of one of the first free Black towns in Florida. I'm descendants of people from Tulsa who came from the cotton fields in Arkansas as well. So you, my cousin, Brother Greg. So yeah, let's keep that in mind as we keep
Amen.
these discussions going around our history.
Yeah, I think what I'm sorry if somebody else was going to jump in, but I was just going to say, I think what happens is that sometimes we get so used to what we know that we forget to look through the perspective of someone who just may be completely ignorant, and not being afraid to acknowledge that they're ignorant. Not ignorant from what's the thing? Not intentionally ignorant, not trying
Willfully.
to be, willfully ignorant. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just the fact that they're just ignorant. They don't know, right?
They just know.
Yeah, they just don't know. And so you have to kind of like, you got to take that Martin Luther King approach in that regard and say, look, I'm not going to just judge you because you're a white dude or that you this Asian guy or whatever that's coming in saying this. I'm going to think about it from the standpoint of, okay, what is your character and how are you asking these questions? And then having a sense of patience to be able to explain and educate and realize that that's our part. If we have knowledge, I don't care what kind of knowledge it is. That's what Black Bitcoin Billionaires is built on. If we have knowledge that can actually add value to the world, I think it is our responsibility as those that have the knowledge to actually share the knowledge. You understand what I'm saying? I was listening to a King Los freestyle, and he said he was basically like, those that learn to read, those that learn to learn. In his freestyle, the way he was saying it, they cut out their tongue. Now think about that. Think about that line. It's like when you learn how to read, or you learn how to learn, when you begin to learn things, they cut your tongue out. Why? Because they understood that once you learn something, that you could then go and start. You don't even need the documents anymore. You don't even need the book no more. You can go and tell somebody else, right? And I think there's a lot of power in us being able to spread that information. And I think that starts to lead us toward a more progressive type of a nation and environment where we start to eradicate racism at its core, which is the lack of understanding and empathy for others and what they've gone through. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what it boils down to. So I think.
So Mark.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go. Who is that?
I got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a good point that you bring up with the cutting out of the tongue, and sometimes even the gouging out of eyeballs too. We won't forget that. Other guys, they sometimes might gouge an eyeball out if they caught you reading. What the thing that concerns me about that is the piece that has evolved from, I guess, the proverbial cutting out of the tongue now, which is censorship, because I feel like that happens with many people where the message is out there, but the censorship keeps on coming up, and the censorship keeps getting in the way. So how in your mind do we tackle that?
That's why we use things like that. Listen, I don't think people understand how powerful the philosophies behind Bitcoin are, right? It's censorshipless, it's trustless. That's the same thing. Like the Lightning Network that we're working on, that I just told Josh, I just spawned up a quick Signet node. Like that Lightning Network will allow you to make these conversations almost in an Underground Railroad type of a way, where you can send conversations from you to the endpoint without anybody in the middle even being able to see what the message is. It won't be able to be open until it gets to the person who is supposed to be, but you can create this robust network to keep that information out there. I think also we have so many avenues to get our voice out. We got, like I said, we on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of these right now at the same time simultaneously. And even the information that we're giving out now, and of course, because the Black Bitcoin Billionaires is not just a black only club, we are extremely diverse. I bet if you look through the crowd, there's all types of people from all genders, races, everything in our crowd right now listening to us. So I think when you have an opportunity to do those kind of things and people have those questions, you just answer them and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what we have to get to, and not get so offended by someone having a question. Because for me, I know that I don't know everything. And so I ask a lot of questions. You know what I'm saying? So when other people ask me questions that I have the answer to, I'm going to answer it at the best I can. And if I don't have it, we're going to look it up. And that's why I love the Black Bitcoin Billionaires. I'm going to say it one more time. The moderators in this group, regardless of what the question is, they are very knowledgeable, and they are able to put things in a way that people understand them. From Dr. Shalera in the morning, to Miss Naja, to Charlene, to Corey, to everybody, right? Jakumi, everybody in this whole group, they tend to make information palatable for individuals. And I think that's what it has to be, right? I think we just have to get to that point again. But yeah, I heard somebody else speaking up. Who was that?
Yeah. Lamar, that's me, Kimberly. I was actually in the room with you during those discussions and wanted to bring up 2 points that were sort of argued ad nauseum. First of all, the title of this room, Black Bitcoin Billionaires, some took offense, or I would dare to say there was pushback as to why did the term black even need to be in it. And as I explained that it is not diversive, this space. So we had to create a safe place, a safe introductory place that our people would feel welcomed, and that also they would feel cared for. And no matter what their questions were, that there may be a shared experience amongst the audience. While at the same time, I shared in that room that our moderators are diverse. And oftentimes the people that are moderating these rooms aren't even black. Mentioning Josh and mentioning, some of our other individuals. And that went on and on. And it goes back to what you said. It was because of their experiences. They did not have enough experience to understand the discriminatory nature, even in the Bitcoin space. So you went on to share with them examples, specific examples, and still there was argument and pushback that, well, maybe you weren't treated that way. Maybe you just thought that they thought that way. Maybe you just thought that you were being excluded, and maybe they were just joking and they didn't really mean the insult. And I think that that's something that we have to face constantly. Also, though, in this space, it was also noted that there has to be a level of empathy. If you've never experienced that thing, rather than to dismiss someone else's experience, rather than to say, because we were hit with all sorts of statistics like, well, the Asians seem to be doing very well as a minority group. Why can't the blacks just do what the Asians have done? And we were also hit with things like, well, when you look at the last numbers, Hispanics and blacks, they're about 30% of the crypto space. So who are these people that you all feel like you need to have this room for? And those things were astonishing to me. Like, I was really hurt in my spirit that they really couldn't get it, like, no matter how you put it. And eventually, and after you left the room, Lamar, they were trying to get you to come back in the room. Eventually, some were able to say, well, maybe my experience with people of color is too limited for me to even speak on the pain that I feel like you all endure. And that was the aha moment. Because if you're not standing next to somebody in pain and you don't know their pain intimately, or their pain isn't relative to you, then I'm not understanding, like, on what grounds do you speak on what a next person is feeling, whether they're black, white, or not. It does come down to empathy. It does come down to wanting to understand, wanting to perceive. And if you can't, then just sort of being quiet and watching things unfold.
Yeah, I think it just comes down. I think it comes down to love, Miss Kim. I think it's really what it all boils down to. Like, that empathy has to come from love. And I always say this to men. This is what I say to men all the time because they tend to be some of the ones that have the biggest questions, so to speak. And I always say to them, I'm like, you're married, right? And they're like, yeah, I'm married. I'm like, it's okay. You got a kid? Yeah, we got kids. I said, go in there right now and tell your wife that the pain she felt through childbirth was really nothing. I said, go in there and tell her it's not really that bad. Like, it's not like, go and talk to her and tell her that when she was pushing that she was struggling for no reason. Go tell her that pain was whack. And you know, sometimes people get it. They understand that analogy. They understand that there's no way as a male that they can feel the same pain that a woman felt through labor. And you would not even dare to say that. But when you talk to people who have not experienced the marginalized life, right? The marginalized and disadvantaged life of being a minority in a country of majority, right? They don't look at that the same way. They're like, well, we're just the same. We're both humans, right? We're both humans. It should work out great for both of us, correct? And then when you start telling stories, then they start to justify it away. Well, maybe it wasn't that. So go tell your wife that maybe it wasn't really that pain that you was feeling in the bottom of your gut. Maybe that was really you were constipated. Maybe it felt like when I pinched myself the other day, I stubbed my toe. Maybe that's what it was. Like, that's what I'm saying. Nobody justifies away the plight of their wife. You know why? You know why they don't justify that away? Because they
love her.
There you go. Because they love their wife. And when you love someone, you tend to have a lot more empathy for them because you then take yourself and put you in their shoes. And you know why else they love their wife? Because they know their wife. They take them the time out to start to understand their wife and understand that their wife is a tough cookie. And for her to look like that, like my wife, I always say she was like Sealy. Like she was going through it.
Not Sealy.
She was like
Not Sealy.
Like Sealy. My wife is tough as look. She didn't even ask for an epidural until like the very last second. That's how tough she is. And then when the dude said, "Well, I'm going home for the night. I'm gonna be on call. If you need me, call me back. But I probably won't be able to get back in time." And that's the only thing that made her go, okay, well, you know what? Just in case this pain gets a little bit harder, go like when he ran out the door, she said, "Go get that man." So I understand. Like for me, I understand. I've seen my wife. I know who my wife is. I know she's tough. And for me to see her go through that pain, I would never say, "Oh, that pain wasn't really like that. You don't need no epidural." You understand, what I'm saying?
Yeah, love is absolutely the answer, man. It cures all those ills, right? But you know, someone has to have that desire to learn of someone, you know, and figure out what's going on with them, to actually seek knowledge. And you know, I'd be remiss. I don't know those of you that follow me on Twitter. You know, I've been wrestling with this problem since Friday. You know, I had this one drunk dude who took offense to the word black in the title of the space that I run over on Twitter, being black and bullish. He decided to be drunk one night and launch into a drunken tirade against me based on my skin color and the name of that group. So there's a video that I ended up posting, because he was saying stuff that was inaccurate. I felt like I had to put it down. But coming to the point here is just that there's been a number of people that had that question: is your group exclusive to anyone? And they asked. But this man chose ignorance. He didn't ask me. He decided that he was going to become upset at me. Just look at how ignorance pervaded over love and actually wanting to seek and obtain knowledge. This man saw something. He had a feeling about it. He made himself angry about the assumption that he made, and then he decided to lash out against me completely unprovoked, based on the thought that he had, the assumption that he made, all alone and by himself, and then got upset when I called him a racist. Well, your behavior was objectively racist, and it's just so funny to me that when the questions come, right, and I have to say this, I'm just going to be, very, very specific in my language. Of the people that asked me, Lawrence, is your group exclusive to black folks, or can anyone join? And of course, the answer was like, no, absolutely, it's not that way at all. The only people that asked me that question, of that small number, were all of what is known as the oppressor group in our country. Anybody that was outside of that group, they just knew they could just press the join button and come on in. So it's just so eye-opening to me that the people that have the biggest incentive to put that away, hide that, separate themselves from it, try and not make that part of the legacy of their ancestry, right? Are the people that have that sensitivity toward it. It's just crazy how that dynamic works to me. And just to round this off, getting back to what Lamar said, just having the thought to want to actually ask a question, investigate, find out what's going on. Well, that's the gateway drug to that love that Lamar is talking about. That's necessary for you to have those positive interactions with our people, with each other, one person to another.
You know what, Lawrence? Good morning, family. I hope all is well. This conversation is fire to me. But I'll just say this.
Speak up.
Can you all hear me?
He's smooth. He got to talk like that.
Yeah, get rid of that late night FM DJ voice and speak up for us.
Nah,
Man,
Exactly. Quiet storm.
oh goodness, I love you all. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you,
Yeah,
Shree.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it's interesting, Lawrence, you say this piece about the sensitivity, right? And the minister did a Donahue interview back in the 90s. And the beautiful thing about this point that you bring up is there's a certain level of guilty conscience that comes from these people. So there's the thought, me specifically, my background as the family knows, being in the nation, there's a certain thought that, oh man, they're teaching hate because they'll come back and do what we did to them for so long and that kind of thing. When, in all actuality, that's just, the guilty conscience of that person trying to find a way to defend itself and feel, make itself the victim so that those who, are in the space of empowering the people, seem negative.
Sharif,
Yes,
Sharif,
sir.
I want to interject real quick before you go on, just because of one particular thing you said. This same gentleman, what you said, that victim deal. The reason I posted the video that I posted was because he was trying to recast what happened online and said he was being labeled as a racist because he was Southern. He literally tried to recast himself as victim.
Yep.
Go.
Yep, and it's in that same sense, we deal with this a lot. Being in the nation, there's this thing where these people come to you and they're like, well, can I be Muslim? Can I join the nation? And anyone could be Muslim, yes, but when it comes to us specifically, black people, and just using the nation as an example, there's a certain level of protection and a certain level of exclusivity that needs to happen because of the history. So just to go into that, imagine, I come into the mosque and there's a person who I'm used to being an oppressor. Then you feel a level of, oh, I can't do certain things, or I have to be a certain way, or I have to look over my shoulder because this person is around. So there's always that level of, oh, can I join, or is this just for you? And that is something that we also deal with, and I'll end there.
I'm glad that you brought up the subconscious thing, because that's what I was going to bring up. The fact that it's subconscious guilt, because historically speaking, when things were labeled white, it was there to be anti-black, or you cannot be a part of this. So now when they see something that says Black Bitcoin billionaires or Black and bullish, they're just going back to that subconscious guilt of, oh, when things are labeled, it's because you're not allowed here. And it's like, that's not our history, bro. Like, we're about inclusivity.
Absolutely. And one thing they kind of forget too is that back in those days, we had the black labels on things so that we know where to go, because there was often there was a history, and that happened often when we go to a white establishment, there would be violence against us. So for safe measures, we had to make those markings like, hey, this is black, this is us over here, it's safe up here, come over here. So it was done out of protection, you know what I'm saying? So they're dumb.
Yeah, the other part of that, though, Corey, that I try to get people to explain, we did not invent the social construct of race. We did not make division based on the color of our skin. That's not what we created.
That's right.
But now that we've gotten into a position where we have adopted and adapted to it, right? Now all of a sudden you want to say that us putting black on the front of something is us now causing more division. When the truth of the matter is that we weren't the root of the division in the first place. That's the part that I think that some people have a hard time overcoming, right? They're like, you're just trying to add more division. Just leave all the color things alone. No, you got to remember, like Corey said, this is part of who we are at this point. We got some of our greatest singers saying, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud."
That's right.
This is part of our anthem, right? You put us in a box of the majority society, the status in our society put us into a box of black. And now all of a sudden, when we begin to embrace the box of black and saying this is a place that you can come, and here's what's so dope about Black Bitcoin Billionaires and Black and Bullish, right? This is not saying that you can't come into this box with us. What it's basically saying is that if you come into this box, realize that the people that have control over this box are black.
Yes, sir.
That's all it really boils down to.
But more so too, Lamar, is about representation, right? There is this overarching narrative, and what's up, everybody, right? That we are interacting with, and that we are balancing in terms of is certain spaces and places where we are significantly represented and willfully and woefully underrepresented, right, throughout the system. So this lets us know, hey, there is a space for us in order to have this conversation. There are people here intentionally and specifically for us, right? That does not need to necessarily be stated by the majority, because they understand or they operate within the mindset that all of this is for them, right? So we don't need to label a space that has predominantly protected you, that has given you power, that has elevated you, and that you already feel as if it is your own to tell you and give you permission to be in that space. You don't seek it. You don't need to understand it or try to. You just say, this is for us, right? So we have all of these white labels, whether they are implicit and or explicit, whether we're talking about historically and or presently, and that is understood. So that is the same thing that we are saying now is about representation and about letting people know that, hey, there is a space for you. Color blindness only does more damage, right?
That's
If we
right.
think about Flint, people can't see that the water is dirty because everybody wants to be colorblind. Oh, this is about this and this is about otherness. No, it is about race. And that's what it's
Hey,
about.
Ryan.
Color blindness and implicit bias has done people so much disservice. Greg, I think that was you that came off of me. What's up, brother? Or
No,
Lawrence?
that was me. I was just gonna say really quickly on that colorblindness thing. You know, a lot of people do that. Oh, I don't see color. It doesn't have to be about color. Color doesn't matter, right? That's only spoken by a group of people that have the privilege and the luxury
That's
to live
right.
their entire life being unaffected by color. That is a
Right.
privilege that is specifically afforded to those who are a part of the historic oppressor group. Nobody else possesses that luxury. So when you try to tell somebody that you shouldn't live your life based on the label that has been attributed to you and everybody that looks like you that came before you, is absolutely ignorant. So just to put that counter argument down completely, that is not possible for those that are outside of the historic oppressor group in any nation. That luxury is not afforded to you. That is not the reality that we have to live in.
And all those same people that complains about black being entitled, they don't say nothing about black licorice.
And the negative,
black licorice about nasty as you can get.
Man, black licorice, blacklist, black, all the things that are so negative, right?
That's right.
Nobody ever says black cat,
black tooth,
black sheep.
Facts. And this is why it's very important, again, for us to interrogate language and think about how language has been used to further a narrative about a group of people, right? When people say, oh, you've been blackballed, right? We already know this. There are innumerable words that have a negative connotation and associated with the word black. The closer that you are to whiteness, it is viewed as the more pure, great, and all of those things that you are. And that has been codified in language, it has been codified in law, it has been codified everywhere else. And the thing that we are dealing with today is that a lot of people, they like to use MLK language and all of that stuff like that, but they don't read all the way to the end of the I Have a Dream speech.
Come on.
They don't read the other America. Everybody likes to pick and choose the
Right.
narrative.
Burn
And then when it comes to economic justice, they shy away from it because that then right? That then puts them in a place where they say, hey, I have to challenge my position of power. I have to challenge my authority. And the issue is people then they try to reduce institutions to individuals and they say, no, I am not racist, but you have benefited from a system of racism. You don't need to be racist when the system is racist, right? So we can't reduce systems to self. That goes into logical fallacies, right? Sample size bias and a whole host of other things of that nature. We have to interrogate the things. MLK, and I said this yesterday, said nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And a lot of people are walking in that because they do not want to interrogate the system that has benefited them.
Ignorance is bliss.
So
Yeah, and
I have two questions. One thing is, I think they use the word interchangeably when it comes to black. I think when you talk about like etymology and language, because you do have things that they justify black as good for too, like Black Friday, like the Black American Express Black Card. And I'm not advocating for
Hold
them,
on.
but I don't know if
You
it's just
think Black
maybe
Friday is meant to be a good, like
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Black Friday? I think
no,
Black Friday is meant to
Not
be a
literally
positive
good. That's
thing.
funny though. It's
Black
but
Friday.
look at how they use it. That's
It's called
Yeah,
Black
I think it
Friday
was
because
satire.
retailers catch up, right? So usually they're in the red through the year, and then they changed it to black. That's how they're able. They have these crazy
Right.
sales, so they get into the black. So that's a little different.
Yes.
And it's literally just because black is the default color of a darn font on a spreadsheet. Like that's it.
Exactly. Right. And if your accounting statement is in the red, that means you're in the negative, right? Like that literally is what Black Friday is about.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I don't know if that's a different black. Again, like Lauren said, it's not like they attributed black to being good. It was just like on this spreadsheet. You know what I'm saying? On this
no,
spreadsheet
yeah, that's
is
why
black.
I asked the question, and I'm sorry if I
Or even in the old ledgers, right? They used to use black ink, right? And then
Right.
they would use red ink for negative stuff. So it's like, yeah. But I'm with you though. Coach Ken.
But so I wanted to say, which is so crazy to me, is to hear this rhetoric from Bitcoiners, because if you think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, by definition, it's supposed to be inclusive, right? Like we talk about that. We talk about that it's an entry point for everybody, but we all know that the Bitcoin narrative is not inclusive at all. We all know that there's racism deep in the cryptocurrency space. When you think about who is always on the mic when it comes to crypto and Bitcoin. And we don't talk about kind of the gender part, but like it is a very white, male dominated industry. And you have to think about it. Well, why is that? Well, the heart of it is a combination of tech plus finance. And tech plus finance are white male dominated industries. And so I just think that Black Bitcoin Billionaire our club as a space is just downright revolutionary, because we're pushing against that narrative, that single narrative of that Bitcoin only belongs to one group of people, cyber nerds, technologists, libertarians. That's just not the case. And we have to continue to create this space so that we can ensure that people that want to come to Bitcoin have a space where they can be celebrated and supported and embraced. Because we know that if you're Black in this country, your daily experience is one that where you are not celebrated. If you're in corporate America, you're not embraced, you're not celebrated. If you're a person in retail, you're experiencing microaggressions every day. So we wanted to create a space that made sense and that was peaceful for folks. And how can you ever question that? I find it very offensive for people to ask about the Black part, because you look at who's on Twitter, you look at the podcasters, you look at who's writing these blog posts. They all look the same. And when you don't see yourself in a space,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
assume it's not for you. That is
that's
the
right.
narrative that Black people get in this country every day. And we've created this space to say, nope, we got a space for you. We can help you get up. We can help you find your place in the Bitcoin community. We can help you learn this information. It's not that difficult. You go in those other clubs, they'll make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about. They make you, the conversation is condescending. No, we created a peaceful space for that. And I mean, how can you argue with that? I don't know. This is Charlene. I'm done
It's
speaking.
again, it goes, and I'm with you, Charlene, because I thought when you said it's so weird in the Bitcoin space that we hear this pushback, even from the standpoint of freedom and freedom of speech. Like
Right.
the fact
From
that
different people
I should
on
be
the
able
mic.
to, I should be able to name whatever I want to name something. And I say that a lot of times when I answer, they're like, why would you name it that? Because I'm free. When I say that kind of thing, it's like, huh, what do you mean? Well, that's the whole thing. And then one of the arguments I saw come back at Lawrence, which is the same argument that comes back to us. Well, if we named our space white and bullish, we would get all kinds of feedback. And what did Lawrence, did you see what my response was?
No, you wouldn't.
Nah.
Yeah, it was pretty much what you just said a minute ago about, the
Yeah.
construct was given to us and we used the label, and now you got a
And-
problem with us using it?
No, but did you see what the other part I said? I said, go ahead and do it, man. See, the
Right.
only,
Oh, no, I missed that.
yeah, the only,
Go ahead and see
That's
what
yeah, I said,
That's
if you want to do it, go do it. Like
That's
you're
what
just
freedom
basically
is.
telling
See,
me
but-
that you're afraid. That's what you're telling me is
Yeah.
that you're a coward. Like if that's
But
something that
Lamar-
you really want to do, and you being passive aggressive by coming to me telling me that this is what would happen, well, go make one. Make your white and bullish. Make you a white Bitcoin billionaire. Go make those groups. It doesn't like we're not gonna come to you and be like, why can't we be in the group? It's like no, that's fine. I'm gonna go probably join your group depending on who it is. That's the white Bitcoin billionaire. If they good folk, you understand what I'm saying? Now here's the
Hey, Lamar.
here's the question, right? Here's the question. If I go and join and then you say, hold up, man, we don't want no black people in our white Bitcoin billionaire group, then guess what? You ain't like the black Bitcoin billionaire.
That's right.
You've immediately separated yourself in the way that you was talking about. Because the thing is, I always say this, to a thief, everybody's a thief. To a murderer, everybody's a murderer. Everybody's trying to set you up to kill you. Everybody's trying to set you up to steal from you. For a person that always comes out and says this is divisive, what that's telling me is that you are a divider. That's literally all it tells me. Is that the way you think and look at things is that you feel like this would divide if you did it, and you would divide it off from people, and that's the way that you were looking at it. Period. You're not somebody that's gonna try to bring people together. Now, let's be real about the situation. Your perspective is division, and that's why you're looking at it the way. Yeah, somebody just said my name. Who was that?
No, Lamar, what I was going to mention is where Bitcoin was concerned in that conversation in that room is the argument was Bitcoin fixes everything. And I mentioned that there were limited points of access for people of color. And the argument then became there are no barriers to entering into Bitcoin. There is no limited access. It just does not exist because Bitcoin is for everyone. And as I specifically went into talking about things such as housing, things such as education, access to technology, the great digital divide, when I went into talking about things like kids not having the proper technology to even do their schoolwork, when we talked about food, nutrition, and we talked about the choices that people would have to make for basic essential things other than investing in Bitcoin, there was disbelief that that could not possibly be true. And that even if it were true, Bitcoin fixes that as well. And to me, we're talking to individuals who don't even know what the Tuskegee experiments are, but they were speaking to how Black folk are fairly treated in this country. And we had to explain what Tuskegee experiments were. They had no knowledge. So in having that conversation, even bringing it back to Bitcoin, no, Bitcoin really doesn't fix everything. It can address some things. But the argument was, well, let's not talk about those things. Let's be more solution based. But when we argued that that was a part of the solution, addressing these things are a part of the solution, people couldn't wrap their brains around that it could be except these things. And the gentleman, Michael, kept saying, no, everything except those things that you mentioned, Bitcoin can fix.
Madam Kemp, that is simply because it is a classist argument, right? And the thing that people detach through cognitive dissonance is the idea that racism is solely grounded in money. It's solely grounded in profit. What they forget to also include is power and how power has been codified through law. But what they also fail to think about is if we go back to money, has money changed your mindset? It matters not how wealthy that we get, racism will still be prevalent. And here, why? Because my money does not matter if your mindset has yet to shift. And the thing is, there are racist Bitcoiners. Bitcoin has not fixed it for them. And the other logical fallacy that was brought up within that conversation is if then that. If this, then that. If you understand that racism is grounded in profit, which they leave out power, and you understand that the fiat system is broken, then Bitcoin solves that. It does not. And that's where the true issue lies, in not truly understanding racism and how pervasive it is, and the mindset that goes into perpetuating racist ideology, colorism, white supremacy, and all of these other things, right? They are not only taught, but they are also internalized. So even if all white people, if you will, all people of European descent, all of everything were wiped out of this earth, and there were only people of African descent, there would still be racism. And everybody could own Bitcoin, and there would still be racism. There would still be colorism. There would still be classism. So it does not inherently solve any of those things. And we have to go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
But I think what happens, I think when people say that, I think what we have to understand is that we are getting better. Like, I can truthfully say that. It might be slow and it might still exist, but it's like, I think racism is in remission. I truthfully believe that, man. The cancer
that may be true.
The cancer of racism, I truthfully believe, is in remission, because I sit and watch this new generation, right? I see hope every time. I see the hope that is within this new generation of kids that are learning about African American history, right? And then when you look at like critical race theory, like you were talking about, Ryan, it's like I see that the whole idea of them trying to teach different thoughts from or teach from other thinkers that are not necessarily Anglo-Saxon or European, right? I think the fact that we are starting to listen to the voices of other thinkers in this country are going to help us continue to be in remission when it comes to racism. I'm not saying it's going to be eradicated completely, but I do have hope for the future, because even from when, think about it, every generation has gotten a little bit better. Like, there was a time that, you know, as a black kid, you had no white friends, like, period. You get what I'm saying? And I think slowly but surely we are beginning to eradicate it. But I think it all comes down to understanding. And that understanding is what's going to help us all get out of racism and eradicate racism around the world. And if that don't happen, the fact that most of the world is going to be mixed at some point and ain't going to be, you know, it's going to be like Toronto. It's going to automatically make people start having to look a different way. I don't know about the colorism part, Ryan, but at least from a racism standpoint, everybody going to mess around and be the Jason Kidd color in a few years, man.
Lamar, I have a question for the group, and this question is for every mod on the panel, okay? At what point do Black people decide not to take on the role as the educator of racism?
But we shouldn't. We always have to, Miss Charlene.
Let me finish my question. The
Go ahead,
reason
sister.
why I ask that is because I think there are 24 hours in the day, and we have limited time and attention. And when you spend time on something, on opportunity A, it takes time away from opportunity B. And so, you know, I wonder if our time, and I say our time is better spent focusing on ensuring that the Black community is well equipped to function. And, you know, I'm sure you could say, hey, we can do many things at the same time, but there's a cost. There's a social, there's an emotional, there's a psychological cost of hashing and rehashing many of these conversations. I think that conversations are valuable for those folks that want to hear it, but I think we have to be realistic and acknowledge there's a huge part of this country that has made a decision not to hear many of these conversations. So,
Ms. Charlene,
that's my question for the group.
I'm going to fight back on that again, because here's the thing. Some of these people ain't even thinking about it. Like, I'm not thinking about World War I. Are you a World War II historian, Ms. Charlene?
I am not.
Me neither. I have no clue what went down in World War One or World War Two, right? And so for me, it's like when I get in those conversations, I hear people talking about it, I ask those questions. Because this is not something that I'm out like there are certain people, what's her name? Dr. Jane, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Like people, there are certain people that's what they do, right? What I'm saying is that if the question is asked and you have the knowledge, I think it is imperative that we, with the knowledge, actually enlighten other people. It's like if you have the light, you gotta share it in a world of darkness. And I truthfully believe that.
Just real quick too, like it also helps to like those people that can and that have the patience to do so. Those can be the ones to educate. It's not necessarily putting it on the table for everybody to do it. Like if you don't have the patience to do it, if you feel like you can't be the one to explain it correctly in a way that's effective, then you don't have to. But we do need people on that line that's willing to do it, because no matter what the issue is, if we're not involved with the education of racism, then that leaves the oppressors to be the educators of racism. And that, again, keeps the narrative where it is. So we do need to always be involved with the education.
Until the lions have their own historian, the hunters will always be glorified. And every narrative that has been hijacked, including critical race theory, and people can go back to, I think, March 15th. If you look at Christopher Rufo's tweets, you will see the intentionality between hijacking terms and then trying to make it other than what it is meant to be. They said that they are going to recodify and make sure that anything, the extremes, are always associated with critical race theory. That's just one example. But we see it in language throughout. White people smoke, they're called hippies. They do certain things, they're hippies. Black people do something, it's thugs. So we have to push back against the language that is even being used and how it's being narrated. And Lamar, I'm going to say this. Symbolically and maybe person to person, racism is not as explicit as it has been in the past, and there is some progress. But there is still a lot of racism that is implicit and still carried out. And from an economic perspective, Black people in the U.S. are in the same place as we have been statistically since 1968.
Right, I'm with you on that, bro.
So
yeah, we might be worse, but what I'm saying is
we're actually worse.
This is what I'm gonna say, right? There were actual laws that put us in the position we in now. Am I right, Ryan?
And some of them are still on the book.
But
many of them are still on the book.
But you're saying many of them, you're not saying all, right? So if all aren't on the books, just from you walk down the logical steps, that means it's getting better. That means that we still have a bigger fight to fight. You get what I'm saying? Like we got to keep fighting. Like we just got.
I just think we fight differently.
I think it's covered differently.
I would say, if I can offer some pushback to Mars' pushback, like I think this is one of those things where we're talking about, MLK saying, "Did I just,
yes,
put my people into a burning house?" Right?
Yes.
Is that it's a little bit? Let me just say it like this: the forms that racism takes now, it's far more insidious. Which I would propose is far more dangerous. It's easier to have your enemy line up on the side of the field across from you, and know who you're combating. We're now in an environment where people assume they have no enemies, but their enemies have snipers trained at them. They're poisoning everything that they touch. It's just more insidious now. And I think that's why you can anecdotally have this feeling that things have changed, things are better. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the actual real world results and effects on this group of people, they're the same or worse.
I'm going to fight you back on that. It's a good debate. Hold on. Here's the debate, though. Here's the debate.
I appreciate it. Push back on the pushback.
No, I'm going to push back because here's the thing. Let's just do math. From a compound interest standpoint, we know how the numbers line up. If I start saving right now and have compound interest of 10% and I stop putting any money in, I can still outpace someone who just started. If I had 10 years before they did, I can outpace someone who starts at the same time for that 10 years that I didn't start putting money in, right? So even if things got better, the way compound interest works from a financial economic standpoint, you might not ever catch up unless you change the entire system. You see what I'm saying? So even if things got better, you're already so far behind that from an economic standpoint and from an actual mathematics standpoint, you're not going to catch up. Do you feel what I'm saying?
Well,
so we can't say.
And Lamar, to your point,
see what I'm
that's
saying?
why we're dealing with. You hear Portia talks about it all the time. That article that came out about the fact that black wealth is looking at an extinction. That's where that comes from, is that compound interest against us for so many years, and why we're in a desperate state to say, listen, we got to change a whole bunch of things at one time. We don't even have the time to work on one area. We got to work on all fronts at the same time, else we will be extinct in a lot of these areas.
And this is what I would say, though. Here's the issue. I think, truthfully, it's the way that we're looking at wealth. And I've said this on this show before, on Genesis Block before. But I think the way that we're looking at wealth is all wrong. I think if we go back to even thinking about how Martin Luther King started to talk about the plight and or the actual issue with materialism, if we started to think about like getting ourselves in a position to actually own things and become more and more self-sovereign without thinking about wealth being a 20,000 square foot house or a Bentley or a Learjet. If we stopped thinking about the material things of wealth and started to realize that wealth is about what you actually can own and keep, and then started moving people towards a more hard money like Bitcoin, then the whole idea of wealth winds up changing completely. I always tell y'all this. When I saw the freaking white paper, what I noticed was freedom. And what that freedom was freedom from a oppressive society. Because now I don't even have to participate to still be able to participate. You understand what I'm saying? I don't have to participate in the overarching majority society to actually participate in a society that is connected through hard money. Like, to me, that's what I saw really early on. And I think if we start to think about it from that standpoint, and Miss Charlene, you already know, like, it always feels funny for me to have these debates back and forth, because this is what I do every day. I'm trying to figure out other ways for African Americans to come up in the world. But at the same time, I think we can't lose out on the optimism that we have in this country for our babies. Because I sit and watch our babies. I sit and watch. I sit and watch the new generation. And if we don't affect them in a way to let them know that they can change the world, then the world will never be changed. It's Frederick Douglass. It's a whole lot easier for us to change them than it is to change the older folk, right? And so we got to have that optimism. Like, if we don't have that optimism for our babies, like, where are we? That's my question.
No,
Lamar,
I think we're
say,
with you, brother. I think we're with you. I mean, we understand that it starts in the mind. It starts there. I wasn't even necessarily getting into just the material wealth, which of course I was making a reference to, but it starts with the mental wealth, right? And that's from there is an expansive place. And guess what? The problem is, the challenge is, we aren't addressing that.
So
yeah,
if
I was going to say the same thing. I totally agree with what Lamar's saying. You know, on the back and forth, on the pushback. I just want to make sure that for my statement, I want to make sure it's clear that me stating the reality of what our situation is through my view, with it being more insidious now and therefore more dangerous, that doesn't remove my hope or my optimism, right? I'm just talking about the reality of the different kind of beast that we face now. I just don't want people to be in a position where there's certain things, outward racism, just huge, severe examples of it. I don't want people to mistake the absence of that evidence to mean that things have inherently gotten better, or that those threats don't still exist.
But here's my question. So, have they gotten better or have they not? That's my only question.
I honestly believe they've gotten marginally better, but the systems have changed. And I think that's the bigger point to make. Yes, objectively, you can say it's better because the atrocities that used to take place regularly no longer take place. I just think that the weapons or the systems to carry out that same objective have changed and become more covert and more insidious.
So here's my thing that I wanted to add, and I love my brother Martin, our brother Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and we use his examples a lot. But I have to come from a different angle. We're not speaking about the fact that Brother Martin Luther King got these revelations after he met with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the reason I say that is because in the nation we believe in separatism, and that's not to exclude anybody, but that is because, as I said before, there needs to be an incubator space for Black people. There needs to be a space to where we're focused on the things that happen to us and the residual effects. I think things have gotten better from a physical standpoint. We're not getting beat every day and water hosed and stuff, but we are still being lynched. We are still being lynched publicly. We do still have, and the insidiousness of it is the fact that this inclusive, like, I want to be a part of this system and I want for this to work for us. And I think that's something that may be.
Hold on, Sharif. I think that's
yes,
bad.
sir.
I think that's bad what you're saying, because I literally never said that. I'm all about separating. Yesterday I had to educate.
I know.
I had to educate people on why segregation was better for us. Because the things that's taught in the books and what it seemed like everybody was fighting for was integration, right? And so when you talk to some of the white people, right, just white men, they're like, well, we learned in school that integration was better because it allowed all of us to be together. And I told them, I was like, if you go look economically, segregation was better for us. We were growing at a rapid pace. If you look at educationally, segregation was better for us because our biggest teachers, the actual smartest teachers that we had doctorates, people with doctorates teaching in high schools because they couldn't find jobs anywhere else because of the fact that it was segregation. So we wound up having higher quality educators in our schools that actually knew our community. So then the education was I always tell people, my granddad, he didn't go to college or nothing, but he was always fixing us when it came to grammar, like every time hitting us up like, nope, that's not right. He knew grammar way better than I did. And here I am, went to college and everything. Right? Because in his school, his teachers, number one, probably cared a lot more, but not even that. He had a higher quality of teachers. Yeah, we wind up getting more quantity and more people going to college, but the quality of education that people were getting, even in public schools back then, was a lot higher because of segregation. So when I say those kind of things, you can quickly see, and then I, of course, use the analogy, or not even the analogy, the actual facts of when people say Asians have done better. Well, they've been able to segregate in this country.
Right.
And create Chinatowns and those types of things, right?
I wasn't saying it to.
I just want to make sure that we get that clear. Yeah, I just want to make sure we get that clear, because I'm not saying that those things aren't helping. I'm talking about the whole idea of racism as a whole, and is it getting better or not? And can we actually look at it from what it is? You know what I'm saying?
To where Miss Charlene was coming from when she says that there are things that we need to focus, on certain things as opposed to educating. I think there's enough facts out there that if people want to know the truth, they can find the truth. And I think that is the reason I said the integration is because when you're educating somebody, I think that's a part of saying, well, I want you to understand. Forget that. We don't need them to understand. We know where we came from. We know what's going on. So we focus on ourselves.
I got you.
And then, you know what I'm saying? That's all I was saying.
No, but
I'm gonna ask a question.
But here's the thing. You know what I want, though? And I'm going to be all the way real. Even if we have our own areas, I want people still coming to our Chinatown eating the Chinese food.
Oh yeah, and they will, because that's what we are.
But do you feel
we don't have to teach them
right?
That because they're automatically.
But this is what I'm saying though, right? Like, I truthfully believe if someone has a question and you teach them, that's not doing anything but adding value, not only to yourself because you're teaching something, but also to that person. Agreed. And I don't care if they white, black, green, red, yellow. If you have the knowledge to be able to share somebody that information,
don't forget the zebra stripe, bro.
Then you zebra stripe folk and polka dot. You see, like whatever a person is or who they are from their melanin complexion, I think everyone has the right to be added value, and that's just me. I'm saying that right now because the thing is that sometimes we speak as if number one, black people are monolithic. Sometimes we speak as that. And then on the other side, we speak as if all white people, all Asian people, all Latino people are monolithic as well. And I don't believe that. I definitely don't believe that. There have been people of all races and creeds that have helped in the plight of black people, in the plight of Asian people, in the plight of Jewish people, in the plight of white people in this world. They've helped all sides. People have come. There have been allies all around, right? Let's just be real about the situation. I mean, the dang on Shakers provided us a passage in the Underground Railroad, and those Shakers were predominantly white. You understand what I'm saying? So we can't. We have to be all the way. We gotta take it all in, right? We can't create these whole divisions of separatism when there's not always that, right? We got to call a spade, period. Like somebody was arguing about being anonymous on the internet. I don't care if you're anonymous on the internet, but if you're utilizing anonymity to harass, to subject to violence, to put down other people behind the veil, you're no different than the KKK.
That is a fact.
You are a coward. So I understand your data privacy. I get all of that. But if you are going to be an apologist for people who utilize the fact that they're anonymous to do nefarious things to other people, you are, in fact, a coward. And I'm saying it now, and I'm saying it with my voice. I wrote it on Twitter, but I'm saying it with my voice. So what I'm saying is that we can't look at everything through a monolithic from a monolithic standpoint. We can't say that everybody is the same. Some people actually are seeking to understand. And when they seek to understand, they can become allies. They might have something in the supply chain that we can use.
Yes, sir. And a
feel what I'm saying?
perfect example that I know of that is the minister's, one of his right hand men now is a priest by the name of Father Flager, you know, and this is a European man, but you know, the minister speaks on it all the time. This is my brother, you know, this is someone who is in the fight with me. So I absolutely agree with you.
I'm going to push.
But if you don't vote for me, then you're not black. But if you don't vote for me, then you're not black.
Facts, CJ, facts. And I'm going to push too against white allies or people that are not a part of the community having a savior complex, and coupled with the fact that they are using sometimes anonymity or pseudonymity and then co-opting messages, and then they profit from it significantly. We see it on all forms of social media. We see it all throughout history. And Lamar, I'm going to go back to your question. You asked, has racism gotten better? And I look at it through levers. Explicit racism has gotten better, yes. We're no longer in mass and in groves, right, being looked at as strange fruit. And people openly clapping and having celebrations when, I was about to say something, when black people are being lynched. So yes, we're not having dogs sicked on us in mass and all those other things like that. But things have shifted to a completely implicit bias, right? An implicit racism. So that lever has now went up. Whereas if I look at your name and it's more than 5 letters, and I'm not going to call you back on your resume. Or if I look at your house and I see a black person is here, I'm going to devalue your property. But if I remove all the African art and all the European pieces and I put a white man there, all of a sudden I get a fair appraisal. We're not going to talk about how in your mindset you view a white person as a person with merit, but then every black person or things of that nature, it must be affirmative action.
Ryan, I'm going to stop you right now. So, Ryan, are there black people that live in predominantly white neighborhoods?
Yep. And some of those people wind up getting the police called on them.
But listen what you just said. Some of those people, but I guarantee some of these people on this stage right now live in predominantly white neighborhoods, a stone throw from Chad. Like, I guarantee you some people on this stage, they don't live back in the hood they grew up in. They don't live back on the farm they grew up on. You understand what I'm saying?
That those people, from an implicit perspective, don't look at me as lesser than, and that's what I'm saying.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Though, right? But what I'm saying is, Ryan, if we can't say that there was a time that black people were not even allowed in the neighborhood, they were getting crosses burned on their front yard, they were getting rocks thrown at their window every night, their kids were not playing with the other kids. We can't look at the world and say that it's worse now from a racism standpoint, and we have actual facts in front of us. What I'm saying is that racism still
exists from white hoods to blue uniforms, though.
But no, that's another thing, right?
But Lamar,
because there was
just be through an explicit.
But that's what I'm saying. But some of these blue uniforms aren't even white people.
I'm not racist because I don't hang you. Like, I'm not racist.
No, but that's what. But Ryan, here's my only question. Would you live in a neighborhood? Here's my question. If anybody who says this lives in a neighborhood of white people and believes that everyone around them is racist, then why are you not living amongst your people? If
That
you
right
believe,
there,
if you believe that everybody in your neighborhood at some point will be out to get you, then guess what? You should probably live amongst the people that you actually believe in and trust, which I've been talking about since I was 17, Ryan.
But
But
you
not Lamar.
also you also
I'm
might
with
want to
you.
be
I'm with you.
included.
But that is a singular lens to only look at it through an
No, but let's look through
explicit
all of it. Let's just
racism
keep going.
perspective.
Let's just keep going. Let's go down the list. So
That's
there
an
was a time.
explicit
There was a
racism
time you couldn't live in these neighborhoods. Now there's several people. Matter of fact, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Louisville, Kentucky. I know like at least 7 or 8 people, black people, and when you go in there, it seems like it's almost a black neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, oh, I know them. Oh, they live over there. Oh, okay. Blah, 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 right? It's like that wouldn't have not have happened back in the day, right?
The issue
So
remains.
so that's
It's an explicit thing. Black people used to not be able to go and spend money in white communities as a whole. I could not sit at the counter. I could not do certain things.
right.
Now we see the effect of that as we're being. Only thing that we have done is empower a system that still oppresses us because dollar leads
I did not
our
say it
community
does
the
not
quickest out
oppress
of
us,
everything.
Ryan. All I'm saying is that the word better. Actually, you're always preaching about words, Ryan. Is the word better? What does that mean? There is an
The only thing I'm
actual
saying is
meaning
a
to the word
nuanced
better.
conversation.
Are things better than they used to be for our parents? Are things better for us than used to be definitely for our grandparents or our great grandparents?
So let me say
I
this,
think
Lamar. I don't think that I'm going to stand on the fact that it is not better. It is different. That's what I'm going to say. If we're going to make it simplistic, having lived through I was born in the 60s, having seen the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. And right now, even that difference costs us more. So it's not as provocative as it used to be. It's not as vocal as it used to be. Racism isn't even the norm like it once was. But it is now a part of SOPs. It's a part of policies. There's laws on the books that have been on the books and have been read, reread, and not moved and not omitted. So to me, racism is different. It looks different. But I will not say that it's better because I've lived through times to see that better looks far more progressive. And I got to tell you this too, Lamar. I remember being in grade school and being told it's not always going to be this way. You're not going to always have to go here because this is where all the black people go or do this. There's going to be a time when we're going to all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But in the 2000s, we watched over 159 people of color get publicly lynched by police officers. We've seen so much. So to me, this isn't the better
But
that I was promised.
Miss Kim, okay, I'm gonna ask you that question. Hold on, I'm gonna ask you that question. Did we not also see extremely mixed race protests all across the world? Did we not also see people come out and like in my city, me and my wife was tripping. There was way more white people. There was still way more white people. But there was not way more white people coming out in cities that didn't have anything to do with it, especially in the South.
So that's
the fact that we've even seen, the fact that we've even seen the what's going on in Georgia. Nobody ever believed Georgia would ever become a blue state from a senator's perspective. Nobody.
Virginia as well, but it's different.
So this
to me, it's different.
Yes, listen.
Like a pacifier. Though.
It's It's not even. Hold on. Like the fact that we're not looking at this from the standpoint of the progress that we have made is very disheartening to me. Because if you don't, like we just talked about it, if you don't show children that we can actually achieve things, if you don't show children that there is a better way, like y'all was talking about, us being highlighted in the Bitcoin space, if we don't put these efforts forward, if we don't show them that there has been progression, yes, there is still problems, but we still have some more of the cancer to remove, then what happens is you begin to take away the hope of those children. And I'm not even talking about just our children, right? Like,
Right.
you see what I'm saying? Like when you start to do that, when you don't look from the lens of what is actually going on, I have never said racism is eradicated. Let's make sure we get that clear on tape right now. Racism still exists. It still is going on, but I do not feel like that it is the same. It is at the same ilk that it was before, because now we even have, I truthfully believe the more we continue to think like this, we think like the elephant of which I was always talking about. When I said the elephant used to be tied to the stick, and when it got bigger, it still was tied to the stick. And I think sometimes we get into a mentality and not understand that we are a huge elephant now that can do what the heck we want. And ain't nobody out here trying to hold us back like Sharif, because that's what Sharif would say. If we just get together, we ain't got to worry about nobody holding us back. That's
Exactly.
what I believe. But that ain't.
And I feel you. And
But the
so
stick
therefore,
is smaller to us compared to our power. You get what I'm saying?
Lamar, I am, and not just me, the people that even are around me, we are hope bringers specifically to children, specifically because it is, I put it on everything I love, that it is the children that are going to move the needle to it's better. And I share with them, it is your job to move this needle from different to better. And here's what better looks like. Better looks like empathy for one another. Better looks like inclusion. Better looks like diversity. And so without a doubt, I can't accept I won't accept the label that's really putting focus on the storm as opposed to the rainbow. Without a doubt though, but I think that you do have to share with kids. It might be raining right now, but it's not going to rain always. And in fact, there's going to be a day when the responsibility of moving things to better is yours, and you start now. And so that is the message of hope that, that me and my peers bring to children every single day. It's about telling them what the statistics look like, but you don't have to be a part of that. And it's about showing them that this is how bad it once was. Look at the freedoms that you exercise today. Can you imagine the movement that you guys can do starting today? And that's, to me, that's the reality that I feel works with dealing with youth. And I specifically deal with court involved youth to let them know, yes, there's a system that's meant to hold you down. But if you are part of that system, what would you do differently? How do you if the system isn't going to change, then what do you do differently?
Miss
think
Kim,
it's
do you realize what you
important
just
to have
said?
I
that
would love to add
conversation.
But Miss
something.
Kim, do you realize what you just said though? You just said you tell the kids this is how bad it once was, which
Yeah.
means that it used to be worse. You
Yeah, but
understand
that
what I'm
doesn't
saying?
mean that.
Which
Yeah,
means
but
that if
that
it
doesn't
used to
mean
be
today
worse,
is.
that means now
Okay,
it's better. You just
but you're
said it.
Can
playing with semantics. You're playing with
I
No,
semantics.
know,
that's
And
Lamar.
that's
actual
I
words.
really need to add something here. I really need to add
Yeah, go
something.
ahead. Go ahead.
Like,
Go ahead, Miss.
like,
Hold on. First of all, Miss Kim, did you want to come back with something before Lawrence goes? Because I want to give you a
oh no,
chance to breathe.
only thing that I wanted to say is that feels like semantics. Like it was really, really black, but now it's just a little black now.
Oh,
And to
that's
me that's
real.
but no, but to me what's real is it was really, really bad. And today we've moved the needle so it's different now. But you guys can move the needle even more so that it will be better for you. And I think that that's just different. And I think that's important, and that's being real. That's being so, so very real. But Lamar, please know I respect your stance, and I even respect the stance of Charlene, who mentioned, and I'm simplifying what she was saying, but I get what she was saying. Like, could our time be better spent? How long will we hold up the bloodstained banner for the justice that we should receive and the understanding and the empathy that we should get? Perhaps we should just move forward. And I even understand that. And with certain groups of people, I do elect that card from the deck. But holistically, no, we can't get tired. We can't stop talking about it. We have to continue to start from ground zero. If that's what the room requires, then that's exactly what has to happen. And like someone else mentioned, some people don't have the patience for that. And some people will die on their last breath with that. And to me, that's how we move this forward. We just can't ever, we have no room to grow tired or weary.
A- After
To you, Mom.
Lawrence, can I drop a comment after Lawrence goes, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Lawrence. Yeah, go ahead, Corey. This is
Yeah, the
listen.
thing
This
I
is
wanted to
good.
get
Go
into,
ahead.
it is super healthy, like mega healthy. The thing that I was waiting and itching to get in here is almost what Kimberly just started touching on. I don't think it's a game of semantics, but I do believe the way we're describing this, the word better doesn't do the job, right? To sit there and say it was one way and now it's better, that doesn't do it. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on TV. But in a legal sense, right? You're looking at like when there's a lawsuit against somebody, and you talk about the way a culture is, like what's a toxic workplace culture. There's two words that we always use: severe and pervasive. And I think those are the words that perfectly describe this condition. The things that we used to face in this world based on racism are indeed less severe. They are not as severe as they used to be. This is what Ryan was talking about, the explicit things that we used to see. And it's also, Lamar talking about the abilities and privileges that we didn't once hold that we now hold. And I think the reason for this back and forth in this debate is because racism objectively is just as pervasive as it always was. And just defining pervasive is something that's spread widely throughout an area or a group of people. Within our culture, racism is just as pervasive as it's always been, but it's much less severe. So once again, the point that I was trying to make when this thing kind of touched off is just because things are less severe, do not be erroneously convinced that racism is magically less pervasive, because it's not.
But that's definitely semantics, Lawrence.
No,
Like,
that's not semantics.
like-
I'm saying
like-
the word better doesn't provide the proper context or nuance that this debate has. Things are less severe, but they're just as pervasive. This
But
is
something
not
being
semantics.
less-
This
but
is taking
something
a word that didn't do the job and give you ones that actually define the real terms
But
of what we're
something-
seeing and experiencing.
But something being less severe means that it's better, correct? Because what does severe mean?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Here's
Lamar.
the
No, not at
question.
all.
Here's the
Not at
question. Pervasive. Hold on. Pervasive is this: existing in or spreading through every part of something. Correct? Because I already used the analogy of cancer.
Yes.
Correct. So if cancer begins to go in remission, what does that mean?
Means you still have cancer.
It's not as
Yeah,
aggressive.
you still have cancer.
You still have it. Thank you. You still have it. But what does it mean for it to be going to remission?
Means you still might die of cancer, Lamar. The
Right.
cancer itself is what's the poisonous thing.
Okay, for the 100th time, if somebody don't give me the direct thing and quit walking around it.
It means it's
Thank you, dog. Guys,
reducing
like here's the
the
thing: we can't hold on. We can't talk about truth if we gonna walk around it. Like what I'm saying
I'm
is,
not walking
is that
around it.
this
I'm
is what I'm
walking through
saying. For cancer to be pervasive, which means it's in different parts of your body now, right? But if the doctor comes back to you and tells you that it's in remittance, what does that mean? So can somebody just give me the definition?
See, but to
Lamar,
extend,
it
so to
means-
extend
just
your cancer out-
It means that it's no longer.
No, I'm not button.
It
I'm not
means
button.
that it is no longer active.
Right.
Exactly.
And
It's-
your
That is
life
enough.
No
might
longer
be
reproducing.
It's no longer growing.
longer.
Thank you. Who said that?
Lamar, but here's the thing.
Granny.
Thank you,
know,
Granny.
part of the reason
Somebody
why I couldn't
finally,
no longer be
Lord.
growing is because I've had to chop off your arm. I've had to cut off your toes. I cut off your feet.
But guess what?
I've cut
But guess
off your
what?
breasts. I've done those
Guess what?
things, and
Every-
that's the damage that
listen.
people don't see. because
But no,
don't
they do
talk
see
about
it,
the
bro.
fact that the
They
cancer has
see.
gotten
Here's the
better.
thing. Let me tell you something. Let me explain something to you. You know why they don't see it? Because we don't want to educate them and let them know that the breast got cut off. That's what winds up happening, because we wind up covering it up. What I'm saying is that even though it's pervasive, the moment that it begins to go in remission, we have actual parties for that, right? And then
But what's
we
the-
get to the point where we say, I'm cancer free. I overcame it. So
See, but there's
the
a difference
remission,
in those stages.
exactly.
between
But what I'm
remission-
saying is that we are
remission
in,
and cancer free are different. And the problem is,
and
that
I haven't said we are cancer free. I have not said that racism does not exist, Lawrence. That's what I'm saying. I'm not
saying that you're saying that. at all.
Exactly.
I
What I'm
know
saying
you've
is
never said that.
it is pervasive, but it's less severe. And in any other circumstance, if we can be completely honest about it and get out of our emotion, if we can get out of our
It's just
emotion,
different.
No, but even just different. What's different? Okay, let's break that down. Let's go
See,
from
severity
difference.
would be the difference between stage 1 and stage 4. Like the analogy's not
Right.
being extended far enough.
Right, but this is what I'm
Like
saying.
they're different.
That's perfect. So even from stage 1 to
think
stage
about it
4,
here.
if you go from stage 4 into remittance, you don't cheer for that. Let's be honest.
But Lamar, things are still
Yes.
Why do people keep saying
like
but?
yes, we
Thank you for
cheer.
being honest, man. Gosh, Lee, just be honest. See, the thing is that we are so
Lamar,
emotionally.
this is not about being honest.
But it is about being. So listen, Ryan, you just said it's not about being
Lamar,
honest.
I'm going to push
I can't
back on
deal
you
with
because
that.
again, you're talking about
Like what in the
explicit
world?
racism. You're not talking about implicit racism, and that is the issue. Again, we pull one lever down. No, we're not out there in mass being shot and being killed and having dogs sicked on us and all those things.
We
But
still
this is
are.
how racism
Yeah, we
looks
still are.
today,
And
and that is
I mean,
what we have to focus on. Because
the babies
again,
taken from
it is different. It is not. Oh, well, we just got better because I'm not killing you, but I'm not allowing you to have a place to stay. I'm locking you
But
up more.
Ryan, is that
Everybody
true
is
though?
saying,
Here's the question,
and I'm
Ryan. Is
searching
that
and
true?
like
Let's
that.
deal with
That's the
facts,
issue.
Ryan.
That's
Let's
the
deal
issue.
with Ryan. Let's deal with facts. Is
Can I
that
speak
true
after
that you
Lawrence?
don't have
Can
a
I
place?
speak
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go
after?
ahead, Corey. You next. I'm sorry. And then,
I was just saying.
now
Can I
you
speak
right,
after
man.
Lawrence? Nah, just real quick. Lawrence did say that he's not a lawyer. He didn't play one on TV, but I did play one on TV, so I think I'm qualified to answer this. Um, I think when it comes to better, right? It's subjective when it comes to the focus of what you want to be better. Like when you talked about cancer, when it talks to somebody being older, to say that that person's getting better just because you fix the cancer. He wasn't even concerned about the cancer. One, his body's still dying. He's still frail. To him, he's not better. But to the doctor, his focus was the cancer, to get that cancer better. So that's what is better. And I think that when it comes to the terms of racism, I think it's still a broad brush to say that things are better. What is better? Racism is necessarily not better, but the laws that are attached to racism, they're changing and they are better. For me, I do not care if somebody's racist or not. I don't care. I don't care if
Right.
somebody loves me or not. What I do care about is my protection from the entities that are racist. Are the laws that affect me, are they unbiased? Are the systems being set up in a way that doesn't target or, target the color of my skin? Am I protected? Those laws are the ones that I'm really concerned about being better. Everything else, we can work on when it comes to matters of the heart, but that's up to that person. And whether or not they change or not, as long as I'm protected from how they feel about me, I'm fine. That's the world that I want.
It's
So
Cornelius.
yes,
Okay,
Can I
the
let's
can I
go
laws
say
are
back
better.
to
Cornelius?
the narrative about cancer.
Can,
Let me just put it out there that number one, I am a 2-time cancer survivor. Therefore, when the doctor tells you that your cancer is in remission, you know that it's better and you have another day or another chance. Now, the first time cancer was diagnosed was in 1994. I went about 26 years before I had any additional symptoms. So when Lamar says better, I have to agree with a lot of other people who said it's really about semantics and how you view it. It's really about your mindset. So if you don't think you're in a better position, you won't feel that you're in a better position. Let's go back to what Lamar said about integration being better for our people. And I have to totally agree with him. I've said that for years. I'm a retired educator of about 36 years.
segregation, baby.
And I didn't
Segregation.
dare, I didn't dare utter that in school, but I felt in my heart that integration was better for my people. Why? Just what Lamar said. We had better teachers. We had teachers who cared about our success. We had teachers to push us. In an integrated school, I noticed how teachers would not push the Black children. If the Black children did something outstanding, it was like, oh, that's a great job. But if a white student did something outstanding, oh, Johnny, that is fantastic. So they showed a different emotion. and that would spur the child to even excel even more. But she did not, or he did not pass that kind of emotion on to the brown or the black child. So I believe that integration was better for our people because our teachers pushed us to the max. They taught us that we had to be twice as good. Whether you agree with that or disagree with that, it's neither here nor there. But they pushed us to be our best selves. And I don't see that happening with all teachers in an integrated environment. Of course, the black teachers tried to push the black or the brown students, but again, we had to show fairness and push everybody. So we didn't say, "Oh, to the black child, oh, some Shaniqua, you did an outstanding job." And then when it came to Johnny, "Oh, Johnny, that was good. You did a good job." We would say, "Oh, Johnny, you did a fantastic job. Shaniqua, you did a fantastic job." You see the difference? So I do believe integration was better for our children. I'm Granny Crypto and I'm finished speaking.
Hey, I'd like to jump in and comment. Huh?
Oh man, Reggie on the stage. No, go ahead, Reggie, man.
So, I have a lot to say on this, and many would consider me rather militaristic, but I'm not. I'm more of a numbers factual guy. So, for those who don't think that there has not been progress, say from the 1800s to today, or the early 1900s to today, or even the late 1900s, you're not being factual. Let's go back 200 years. How many black senators were there? Quick answer, 0. How many black congressmen were there? How many black big city mayors were there? How many black members of significant companies, in other words, with balance sheets over $500 million? Okay, adjusted for inflation. So to say that there is no progress from the last 200 years or 100 years or even 50 years is highly disrespectful to those who died, suffered, enslaved to get where we are now. Now, of course, racism exists. You're talking to a guy who has a 357 bullet wound on his shoulder from a cop. Okay? It exists, but to ignore factual progress means you will never be able to recognize or achieve any other progress. If you ignore what's happened, then how are you going to tell if you have a progress in the future or even the present? You know, just take a look at the numbers.
So
The
Reggie, really quickly
racism.
though, that was not the
Hold on,
conversation.
almost
The
done.
conversation was not
Almost done.
about progress within the system.
Okay,
It's about whether
hold.
or
I
not
am almost done.
racism has
Okay,
has
wait.
progressed.
Let me get my point out. Then you can agree or disagree. Just let me get it out. Okay, racism is a subset of classism focused on race. Okay, and let's not confuse racism and prejudice. Okay, there was a brother there who said he doesn't care if someone is racist as long as he's protected. But if someone is able to be racist and it affects you negatively, you're not protected by default. Now, I think what he intended to say was, I don't care if someone is prejudiced against me as long as I'm protected. But in order to be racist, you have to be part of the socio-economic majority, which is different from the numerical majority. Think of apartheid South Africa. Okay, the blacks were the vast minority, the vast majority from a numerical standpoint, but the whites controlled the socio-economic infrastructure. Hence, they were able to oppress the majority of the citizens. Okay, so everybody who is part of the socioeconomic minority and the victim of racism should care about anybody besides themselves being racist. And you cannot be protected from racism if you're not the socioeconomic majority. I'm going to end it there, and you can disagree with me all you want. But I'd like to leave to be able to bounce back and retort. Go ahead.
Now, Reggie, what I was saying was nobody is doubting that on some levels progress has been made, and we can point to that, right? But that does not mean though that racism is less than what it was. Things take on many different forms, and that to me is the conversation. We can let if people point and they use sample size bias. Oh, racism is less because there was a black president. Like really?
And to that point, I think it's important
Uh,
to pay attention to why certain things have progressed. Maybe they allowed for us to progress so that they could. I think it's confusing. It's a lot to look at.
what,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and also
I just
just
had a
now,
quick
now just to address
before.
that black
Hello,
president
Hold
point
on,
real
before we
quick.
get
there's
off,
a young lady. There's a young
before
lady trying to speak.
before we get off of what Reggie
Miss
just
Naja.
said, and I've been really quiet listening because I'm working in the office. But you need to Google, my brother, the 1800s. We have had black senators. We have had black mayors in the 1800s. And in fact, we had a black
Robert
president
Smalls.
before Barack Obama. We had a black president named
That's
John
right.
Hanson. So let's just make sure that you have your facts straight when you go to talking about how much better we're doing.
Okay, and I agree. So, and that's the point. The facts. You cannot anecdotally pull out 2 or 3 facts and then make that the statistical majority. That's not how it works. So, when I ask how many senators we've had in powerful states that were black, be my guest. Compare from the 1800s to today, right? How many black big city mayors have we had? In the 1800s, there was not a single black big city mayor, not one. And you can Google all you want because you can't come up with it. There has been progress. Okay. Now,
And
does
just,
racism
just
still
But to
because
exist?
they're,
whose
but
Of course
benefit?
it
just
exists.
because they're black in a big city does not make the,
Exactly.
that has nothing to do with anything. In fact, if that's the case, we about to have a black mayor here in no, we're not even about to have a black mayor. We about to have a black governor in the state of California that is going to whoop black folks' butt. So you just watch what happens if this fool Larry Elder gets in here in California. That don't make it good.
Right. So you're picking one governor in California is anecdotal evidence. That's cherry picking. When you do an analysis,
No, no,
you have to
no,
It's a
get
no.
system.
1 second. You have to get
Reggie, come on,
everything.
Reggie, come
Hey,
on,
can
No,
y'all
Reggie.
not
let?
come
Hold on,
on,
hold on,
not
hold
come
on,
on,
hold on,
Reggie.
hold on,
Wait, wait, wait,
everybody,
wait, 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 wait.
everyone,
This is
hold up,
math. Right, but we
hold
can't come
up,
on Reggie on math. It's
everyone,
math.
hold up, everyone. I'm gonna mute everybody real quick. Hold up. Listen, we are having a wonderful debate, y'all. Like, there's going to be points that are raised. Yes, my good brother Reggie, you know I love debating with him. But we have to let everybody, Miss Naja made her point. We got to let Reggie come back unencumbered. And if you want to speak, and that's the thing, we're going to have to start putting some time on it because just give everybody a quick little chance to chime in. But Reggie, it's your turn to basically come back and put a rebuttal up against what Miss Naja said. So go ahead. You can come off mute, bro.
Okay, it's not so much a rebuttal; it's more of an extension. I understand her point perfectly. But when you want to mislead somebody and you want to use numbers, okay, you can have, hey, there's 140 people in this room, okay, 135 of them are black. There are 5 white people in the room. Hey, that room has white people in it. Okay, that doesn't mean that room is majority white. That doesn't mean the median person in that room is white. Doesn't even mean it's a lot of people in the white. But you cherry pick. Okay, I just use something dramatic, black and white, to prove a point. But when you look at progress or analysis mathematically, the only reason to cherry pick is you want to prove a point that is not accurate. Okay, to get the accurate, to get the truth, you get everybody, right? And you count everything and see if there's a change for the better. Now, there's a very big difference between racism has improved for blacks and racism doesn't exist or racism is not serious. Racism is very serious. I've almost been killed several times and, you know, I have a lot going for me. So I'm big on racial issues, but in order to achieve progress, first you have to recognize what progress is. And once you recognize what it is, then you make a roadmap to achieve it. Okay. If you attain progress and you either can't or refuse to recognize it, then it's very easy for someone to snatch progress from you in the future. Very easy. That's it in a nutshell. So remember, don't cherry pick, no anecdotal, I have this mayor here. Yes, there was a black president. Okay. But if you look at the power structure in the US, right, the blacks have more influence over the power structure in the US than almost any other time, except for right after slavery ended, when before you had the what's the
You talking about like Reconstruction or something?
before you had the not the popular vote. How do they select the president? The college, the
You're talking about
electoral
the
college.
Electoral
electoral
college.
college. Yeah.
Pre-electoral college.
Electoral
It's
college.
arguable that blacks may have had more political power. Arguable, and that's why the electoral college was implemented to prevent the popular vote from allowing more blacks to go into the political power structure. So I'm asked on that in the research, but outside of that, during this recent period, blacks have more political power than at any time in the U.S. They have more economic power and more tangible capital. Now, is it equal? Not even close. Is it enough?
Reggie,
Not even
where are you
close.
getting
Most
this?
blacks
Where are
don't
you
even
getting these
realize.
stats, brother? I just
Say it
have one
again.
question. Where are you getting these stats? Because
Right.
I
I need
see a
some.
very different thing. I know we used to have about 14% of ownership of this country. We now have less than 0.5%. So I'm lost to where you getting these stats. I
That's
would
why I
love
say
to
it's
see if
about
you got them. Send them
Number
to
one.
me.
intention.
The
So,
only and Reggie, and
so you asked the question, but
I'm
let
not
me say.
arguing. I'm
Okay,
not
one second.
arguing with. I'm not
One second.
arguing with you, but
Okay,
I
I'm gonna
quote.
just do one little bit at a
Hello,
time.
Reggie.
So when you have
Let this. Can you
14% of
let this brother? Can you let
No,
the
hold on,
sister
but hold
speak,
on, Miss
please?
Naja. Greg
Yeah.
did ask him a question, so we gotta let the man
Okay.
answer, and then you can come in at the end.
Yeah. Answer the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember what I said about anecdotal evidence and cherry picking. So we have 14% of $250 million economy versus 1% of a $23 trillion
No. I said
economy.
land. I said land. I was
Saying
very
land, he
clear
said
what I said.
14%.
But
I said land.
the
I
issue is,
didn't say the economy. And let's be clear,
but
Reggie. You had
land.
about a
Wait.
million. Let me just say this to you. I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I was in court. In all fairness, I jumped on her part of it. I
go
jumped
ahead.
in,
No
but that's
problem.
my
Go ahead,
nature.
brother.
I
It's all good.
apologize.
It's all
But I
good. Go
want to
ahead.
wait. I want to say one thing to you, so you can be fair in your analysis. Back
Okay.
in 1800, we were just getting close to 1 million African Americans in this country. We now have 48 million. So
Right.
let's be fair in your analysis when you're saying, because think about it, we're talking about progressively. We're with you. We understand. Obviously, if you have a city full of black folks, they're going to have a black mayor. Ideally. But you got what I'm saying. So I guess in your analysis, just let's be clear. I specifically spoke to land that black people own because I understand we don't have as much.
Okay, quick.
Okay.
That's why I
Hold
made
on.
that statement.
Fair
Just so
Before
you're
enough.
clear.
Reggie, before
And
you
I'm
go
not.
on,
I'm not
I'm
gonna.
gonna enter in. Hold on, I'm gonna enter in some facts real quick, just for everybody else out there listening. I'm gonna let you go ahead, Reggie. It
Okay.
basically says that 14% of the farms located in the United States were owned by black people, and it also goes on to state that the majority of that taking away happened back in the day. Right? It happened in 1910. It says 1910 records show that more black Americans own land than ever before in the history of America. And then over the time, through grants, the USDA, the Emergency Land Fund merged with other federations, the petition. So I'm trying to get to the point where it got taken away. But then when it comes back, right? Just 2010, President Barack Obama authorized the payment of $1.25 billion from the USDA to black American farmers as settlement for Pickford versus Glickman. So it took all the way to 2010 for them to even get a settlement of $1.25 billion back for that land loss. So, I mean, those facts alone, Mr. Greg, because the fact that we own saying nothing about now. The time back then, we wind up losing what we had. You see what I'm saying? That's not saying that we can't get it now. It's just that, again, it goes back to the compound interest. Like, once it was taken, it's been a whole lot harder getting it back. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Let's put that in perspective. Now, wait. Let's put those facts in perspective. Okay. Number one, and this is anecdotal. It was a black president that did it, but we're going to ignore that. Okay. So back then, the most valuable land in the U.S., because the U.S. was an agriculture country, was farmland. Right now, farmland is close to the least valuable. Okay. The most valuable land in the U.S. now are in metropolitan city centers. Okay. So 14% owning farmland, right? If you had those same numbers right now, blacks would still be relatively poor. Things change, the country changed, the economics changed, the value drivers in this country change, right? You want to change with it, right? Going into post-pandemic, some of the most valuable real estate will be resource fulfillment centers, the big warehouses that Amazon and Walmart ship out of. Okay, a lot of commercial real estate that was worth a fortune was the most valuable just a year and a half, 2 years ago. Midtown Manhattan, downtown LA, downtown Chicago are now much less valuable than they were before. So if blacks get a large amount of that, that doesn't make them better off necessarily or as wealthy as white people who may have the residential properties that all that value will flow into, or the warehouse fulfillment.
Okay, we get it. It's all unfair.
I have a
How do we
question.
move
So
forward?
I
Miss
want to
Naja's
make sure
next,
you
y'all.
get.
Just for
I
the
want to make.
record, Miss
I want to
Naja's
make sure
next.
everybody gets it. Then I'm going to drop off. Okay. So what happened? What's true 200 years ago economically is not here in terms of assets. The only thing, if you want to compare assets across the board, I'm going to be a little scientific here. You have to think of risk-adjusted return in terms of assets. So assets that throw off more assets repetitively and continuously. That's what black people need to achieve. The only way to do that is to control the socio-economic status, the social part of power and the economic power. That takes political clout, that takes financial capital, okay, and that takes extant assets. So when you think that way, have blacks progressed? Yes, they have, because it was illegal for blacks to own any of that just a couple of hundred years ago. Literally illegal. They couldn't own it. So listen, I'm all for anybody who
Illegal to
recognizes where
own what?
racism is,
What are you talking
but
about?
to
Illegal to
say
own
that
what?
we haven't had progress or substantial progress is highly disrespectful to my great 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 grandfather, to my even grandmother. Highly disrespectful. Probably not on purpose, but disrespectful nonetheless. Okay, I'll
Can I
sign
say
off now.
something?
Hold
Okay,
on, Miss
so
Naja's next. Go ahead, Miss Naja.
I'm only gonna say that, Reggie, the only reason I even came off mute, because again I was being really silent and just listening, is because you said, and I quote, that there were, you asked how many black senators were there, you asked how many black congressmen were there, and I quote, you said, my quick answer is zero. So I only came on to give you the factuals that you were in fact wrong. And I also want to give you the factual that right now today, my great 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 grandfather purchased 250 acres of land in Shreveport, Louisiana that I still pay taxes on today. So for you to say that it was illegal for people to own properties, the answer to that, that is not factual. And on top of the fact, you also made a statement about how many people had, how many black owned businesses that were worth billions of dollars. And we're not even going to talk about just Tulsa, Oklahoma, but what about Brownsville, Chicago? What about Hyatt in Durham, North Carolina? What about Sweet Auburn in Atlanta? 9th Street in Little Rock, Arkansas? There's another place called Ferris Street in Jackson, Mississippi. All of those were thriving black communities that had billions of dollars in assets before they were taken and seized by most banks and several other, as he said, land grabs. So please make sure that you're factual when you get into that. That's all I wanted to say.
But
And
Miss
I
Miss
say,
Naja, can I fight back on that real quick? The fact, oh, somebody in a blender or something. But Miss Naja, the only thing I want to say is that those places, like you said, were taken from them back then. Now we have people who actually have billionaire companies like what's my man with Worldwide Tech. We got Manna Incorporated. We have actual people that have built billion-dollar establishments and entities within this country. Yeah, Bob Johnson. So what I'm saying is that all of that stuff happened back then, right? Yeah, they were thriving. And what I'm saying is that the racism that existed back then, when they began to thrive, they was like, hey, we gonna bomb you, take it from you through the banks, use the USDA to take your land. All of that stuff happened back then. Now I think we have the ability to build the same types of things, Miss Naja, and ain't nobody gonna come and try to take it from us. Like that's just honest.
Lamar, that's still happening. No, that's not true though, because that's happened in my family where the land is still being taken like rather recently. That's not true.
No, how's it being taken, Coach Ken? Break it down to me, because I want to be factual here. Let's not just be like,
so
oh, you sell your land. That's not somebody
Let
taking
him talk. Please let him talk.
No, so what they'll do is they'll use tax schemes and tax implications, and the bank will work with. There was this whole case. You look up Hannah Jones New York Times case in Louisiana, where this guy he had farmland, and the banks basically coerced with each other to not allow him to get loans so that he couldn't farm his land and make a profit or make even revenue for that matter. And so they went ahead and took his land. You have in my
Coach Ken, but they
my
do that to all
family's case.
types of
Hold on,
races of
hold on. You
people,
wanted
though.
me to
Coach
explain. You
Ken,
wanted me to
Please let him
explain. You
finish
wanted me to
talking.
Coach
explain,
Ken,
Mark.
Coach Ken,
You
real
wanted me
quick.
to explain.
No, but I'm gonna tell you that happens to all kinds of people. I'm just being real with you. Like at the
But who
banks
does
do
it
that.
happen to the most?
The bank,
Like,
no,
come
bro,
on,
we
like.
don't have that much land for it to happen to us the most right now. Let's just be all the way
But it
factual.
doesn't matter how much money we have if it's still happening.
But
That's
it's
the whole
happening to
point.
what
We
I'm
can't
saying
get more
is
land.
is
It's still
that
happening,
happens from the
Mark.
banks for a lot of
Is
people.
there freedom of speech? Why don't you let
Like,
him finish his talking?
hold on, who is this speaking right now?
Alfred, please, sir.
Who is this speaking right now?
Alfred.
Alfred. Alfred.
You don't even
Yeah.
have an ID, sir.
Alfred, you
Like
gone.
I don't even know who
You
you
don't
are.
even go here.
We all family up here, man. We talking amongst family. Coach Ken's family. So Coach
Yeah, for
Ken,
sure.
what I'm
Yeah, he
saying
didn't
is,
even have a profile picture.
well, it's
Or
crazy.
Instagram, nothing.
So Coach Ken,
Go ahead,
all
don't worry about it.
I'm
Go ahead.
asking
I
is,
want to hear the conversation. Go ahead.
yeah, Coach Ken, all I'm asking is that if this thing is that, like this is the way banks do it all day. If you go to North Carolina, South Carolina, you go any of these places that don't even have black people hardly in those communities, the banks be doing this to all types of people. That's now, if you want to have a conversation about how capitalism and some of these banks are able to do things that we can't do, that's a whole different thing. What I'm saying is that from the standpoint of the fact that let's say your family was farming that land. If they were doing well, I know a dude they've been owning their land in freaking North Carolina for 100 years. Like really, like straight up 100 years. His dad is 91 years old. Shout out to Rick Brown. Like literally, they still own their land. Ain't nobody took that land. They pretty much his great was it his great grandfather, his grandfather, great grandfather owned almost the entire county at one point and sold it off. Of course, right? He's selling off to other black people and other white people. But he owns 100 and something acres right now. He's farming it. He's doing a wonderful job, an amazing thing out there. What I'm saying is that I can't use those anecdotal evidence to say that Miss Naja, who just told you there were many cities that were taken away, and you bringing up like a couple of people's farmland in a couple of cities. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, we gotta watch that.
No,
man.
I don't see what you're saying
We
because
gotta
it all
watch that
adds up.
anecdotal stuff, man.
Everyone's anecdotal experience adds up to a totality at the end. So I don't understand how you can just
No, but
disregard that.
because what I'm
Somebody else
saying
just
is
like
if you look
you've
at the actual
experienced that,
facts of
and
the
then it's
situation,
total.
Coach Ken, if you look
But
at the
those
facts
are
of the
facts.
situation, but that's what I'm saying. Your family losing their land, there might be a have you done the research to see if somebody right next to them was a white family that lost their land too? Maybe they trying to come get the whole
That's not
area.
important to me. But we're talking about a pattern that exists between people of color in this country. So I'm not really worried about what's happening with the white people. All I say is I'm seeing the pattern that exists between people of this country that has been experienced in my family and many other families whose skin happens to look like mine. So I could care less about what's happening to the
Coach
white
Ken,
folks.
I can say the same thing. They was trying to take over my family's burial ground by a lake.
Trying to take over
Listen, what I'm
and
saying?
then taking
No,
over two
because
different things.
my
Mark.
family went and fought like the Dickens. What I'm saying is that it was on the lake, right? People wanted to build lake homes, and my family's burial ground is right next to a lake, a very, very like popular lake here in Kentucky. And my family went down and fought and went to court and did everything to keep that burial ground how it was. You get what I'm saying? So I understand. So I can say the same. I could use the same anecdotal stuff and be like, yeah, they was trying to take my family's land too. But it's really because they were trying to take it because it's like a prime resort location. You feel me? So I don't know if that's a black
Are they
thing.
always using the same thing with Cleon's family's property? They use eminent domain here in Boston.
So may I add a little something to what Ms. Naja was saying though?
No, Frederick, no, you cannot. You cannot. Coach
No
Ken
problem,
still got
sir.
the floor, bro. Go ahead, Coach Ken.
But could I say something after Lawrence? After you guys finish,
Go ahead, Coach Ken. Go ahead, Coach Ken. Coach Ken, go ahead, bro.
He's not speaking, but can I add this short soundbite into his microphone? Reggie addressed something just earlier about a statement that he made. He said that I meant to say prejudice instead of racism. I meant to say racism. And I just want to add, just everybody, please do not subscribe to the belief that racism is only on the side of the majority or the controlling authority. That is not true. Whatever rules you place around the execution of it, it includes prejudice, discrimination, and antagonism directed at people because they are different race or ethnicity. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, so that's two people who addressed what I said. So I let it go the first time. So since there's nobody talking, I asked for
But
leave to take
but I
care of
think
Jules.
Lawrence was
Come
next
back.
though. But I think Lawrence was next.
Okay, well,
Lawrence.
not too bad. Lawrence is next, but while he's silent,
No, that was
I asked
Frederick. Frederick was next after you, Corey.
Yeah, no, I just want to throw Lawrence in there, just into the mix.
Go, Frederick.
Okay, thank you, man. I'm just trying to make sure I abide by the rules here. I think I'm trying hard here. So I think that what Reggie said, a lot of it was valid, but there were a few points that you made, and it kind of made me cringe. You kind of implied that the Electoral College came after slavery. Those systems were put in prior to. I think the Electoral College was set up in 1804. Slavery didn't end until to later on that century. So the systems were put in place ahead of time so that if certain folks lost out, you could still kind of manipulate the system and swing things in favor of those that are in power, which were white Anglo-Saxon male Protestants for the most part. So it wasn't just black people were at the very bottom, but there were white sharecroppers and things too. But don't get it twisted. Black folks got it the worst. I heard someone say, how are black folks targeted as far as land is concerned? I'd simply add that the act of redlining just wasn't drawing a line. Redlining was not just the physical, geographic, topographical piece to society. It included financial barriers to entry being put into place. So there were minimal distances between blacks and whites. And a lot of that goes all the way back to the Great Compromise, right? So I think what was it, President Hayes?
Frederick.
There was a compromise between the two political parties. And what they did was they essentially set up the system that put Jim Crow into place. Hey, we'll turn a blind eye.
Frederick.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to stop you. You know why?
Yes, sir.
Because
Yes, sir.
we all understand the history. That's what we're fighting right now.
Okay,
The question on stage right now is this, and I understand Reggie is very debatable. I get it. Like, you throw up all your energy to kind of debate Reggie. I feel you. What I'm saying is that what we're talking about right now is racism better? Because what you're basically doing is establishing a very solid foundation for how bad it was.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? You're really establishing
sir.
an extremely solid foundation for how bad it was. I think all of us get that. So my question is racism better now? Because everything you're saying, we've talked about this ad nauseum. So
right.
Just in this club. So do you think
sir.
we're better now than we were then on all the things that you just said?
So I think we're better in some areas, and we're a lot worse in other areas. And the reason why I say that is to an extent, yeah, we have more. Some of us are more fluent, right? But I've listened to you even say that, hey man, you look back at the people that were in the hood, even in my hood, and I'm like going back every Wednesday trying to teach these kids left and right, show them what's what. But a lot of the things, those systems that were put in place, the names just changed, man. You look at the number of African American males that were put in jail over the war on drugs. They made marijuana legal, and the Negro and people of color, generally speaking, there's a book. Read the book called The Half Untold. It's fantastic. When they picked marijuana, that's because the least drug for most black folks and Hispanic folks was marijuana. Marijuana hadn't killed anybody. But if you make it illegal, I can put you in the prison system, and there's a mechanism within the Constitution of the United States that designates you as a felon, or it can be a misdemeanor, depending on what
Brother
felon
Frederick,
you are.
you're doing it again.
Okay,
You went back.
but I'm going to today.
Go to today. What I'm saying is,
we can't.
Right, but that's because of the past. Right?
Right. So today, right now, today, I think that, man, I tell you, a year ago, I got turned down to buy a piece of property, and the guy told me, well, this property ain't for you. And I could have bought it 10 different ways, man. And it really did. And this is the realtor. He shook me down. And I swear to God, I was saying to myself, man, this must be what redlining feels like. It really does. So, yeah. I don't know.
Do you get what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that if you continue to establish what happened in the past, if you keep establishing what happened in the past and not address the fact that Right, like even right now
Today
we
is
have
bad,
It
Lamar.
has
yeah,
residuals,
we
though.
have here's the exactly
Can
it
I have
has
a question?
It's
residuals, but that's
different.
because
Yeah.
of the past,
Again, it goes
right?
back to being
But
different.
this is what I'm saying. The fact that we have programs right now where they are actually what's the word erasing some of these people's like in California, they're trying to erase some of these people's past marijuana convictions. Right, we have these things actively happening right now to try to make
Yeah,
up for the to try to make up
Is
for
that
expunges. Thank
systemic,
you. I
though?
knew
Is that
Mr.
from the
Greg was up
top
here.
down? Is that
Thank you,
from the
Mr.
top
Greg.
down, though?
Yes, it
Because
is. But Sharif, that's what I'm
Yeah, they have
saying.
New Jersey.
okay,
If you have
Jersey.
felonies,
Thank
if
you.
you go through their drug program, you can literally get those things wiped off. And normally that would be with you for the rest of your life. But they do have those programs that are coming up different places.
That's what I'm saying, y'all.
And that
Like,
came from a black senator
Yeah.
called Cory Booker, a
yeah.
black senator.
So
I
that's
know
what.
Corey. I practiced in New Jersey. Yep.
So that's what I'm. Do y'all see what I'm saying now? Like that's
Yeah.
what I'm
Also in Virginia
saying.
too, Lamar. It's in Virginia. I mean, and it came from Senator Joe Morrissey and Jennifer. However, and yes, I think that we all do see what you're saying. I really do. But I'll say this: if today, like as of I think it was 2 months ago, the land that was taken from the couple John and Will, I think the last name is Will in Long Beach, California. Their land was taken from them almost 100 years ago, and their family's just getting it back. It was
Right, but
taken
they
from
getting
them
it
from
back,
the city
sister.
council.
After
Hold on,
100
no,
years.
You know,
but tell me this, though, Lamar. You're right. They're getting it back. But why is it taking the family today in 2021 and 2020 to expend money to get back land from a city council that stole the land, told the people that they needed it for a park, and never built a park on it for decades upon decades? So to me, that is what systemic racism is. They didn't lynch that family. They just told that family, "Well, take this land because you guys are high-minded."
No,
And they
right.
I have
held it.
But that was
And they
back
held it
then,
for
and
Lamar.
years. And they
now
That's
held
called the progress that Lamar's looking for. That's
Lamar.
progress.
the progress is, guess what? We did you wrong. There's a lot of people speaking out against this. We found in the records where we did you wrong. Now we're going to give it back. And who's to say that
No,
we don't
you
get
found in the
reparations?
records. No, you
I got
found
to
in the
answer.
records where we did you wrong.
No, that's
And
fine.
Lamar.
That's what I said. You found in the records where we did you wrong. That's what I said.
But Lamar, here is to me where the racism is the same. So you found in the records where we did you wrong. So we're going to give you your land back. No, that's not what happened. So now what we need you to do is go and do all the research. We know we did you wrong, and we know it was over 100 years, and some of those records are gone. So if you all can spend your money and find some of those records, we will write a law and bring it to the California legislative floor and have a vote for you to get your land back
the whole
from
country would
a
be
city
ours.
council in 2020. To me, that's why I say it's different,
No,
not
but
I
it's
have
better.
a short
they
answer for you, Lamar.
still they are
I
still
would love to be
the
able to address
result
everybody
the
that's in
result
the mic.
is
Real
they
quick.
are still getting it back. Like after 100 years. There was 100 years of people telling them, I don't care what you
Lamar, let me
find.
ask you
I don't
this.
care if you tell me
Lamar,
you own it.
has the value of the land changed? Like, did they get stuff out of the
Yes,
land?
there's no justice.
What is that? Okay, hold on. They get hold on. Stop. They give them the land. Look, the land hasn't changed. That's why I'm gonna fight all the way back against land because the land hasn't changed. If they want to now sell that land, they're gonna get a lot of money for it. They're going to get a lot of dollars for it. The land hasn't changed. If they gave them back the exact land that they had before, then that's what you would want to do as a family. Unless you might have sold it off. Matter of fact, I heard some old men saying that this is what they said. They said, shoot, they better be glad they didn't give them their land because somebody in their family would have sold it off before it got to 100 years.
Yeah, I got a short answer
Like
for you,
real
Lamar.
talk. Now, do y'all see what I'm saying?
My head to that. I'm
Hey,
shaking my
Lamar.
head to
Miss
that.
Kim,
I got a
come
short
on, Miss
answer.
Kim. You know, cause listen, I listened to an old man say that, and he made a whole lot of sense. Cause I'm over here like, how many people are selling grandmama's house in the hood and then coming back and complaining about gentrification? And you just sold grandmama's house and got a Cadillac. Come on, man.
I have to agree. Well, I agree with you on that point because if it were not for that type of ideology, we would have Amelia Island in Florida where
Right.
our people went to where the first black beach in this country was built by a millionaire. And the long and short of it is descendants sold the property off, and now it's historic for what he did, but now it's gentrified. So yes, that ideology does work. But what I'm saying to you, Lamar, is how it's different is when city council, when it was brought to their attention that yes, indeed, you owe this family their land back. You did not use it for right of way. City council back then just snatched it, and then you let the Ku Klux Klan harass them. And you held it. You even said you were going to build a park, and you held it, and no park is there today. This is oceanfront property, Manhattan Beach is what it's called. But Lamar, right is when the family came and city council recognized, you're right, we wronged your family. Here's your land back. That's not what happened. What happened was expend some money, go find more records, and instead of us just giving your land back, you know what you got to do? We need a law. We need a piece of legislation written for the states to approve for us to give you your land back.
Which is a beautiful thing, because if that gets passed, Miss Kimberly, that means that everybody who got their land taken in that way has an opportunity to go and stand up and get their land back.
No,
that's what happens.
I'm sorry, that just pertains to that county, Lamar. That didn't pertain. That wasn't
everybody in that county. Anybody in that county. But that's what I'm saying. Anybody in the county. That's like what I'm saying is that we can't look a gift horse in the mouth. Like when we do,
they have to fight for it, Lamar.
It is. Let me explain something to you. Let me explain something to you. If somebody comes on
a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
If somebody, they gave the people their land back. There's plenty of people around the country, like right now with Mr. Ken, like what Ken's talking about. There are plenty of people around the country that would love to get their land back. Plenty of people. And so when you get your land back, now what you gonna do with it? That's the question. Like that's the thing. Like we gotta realize, like 100 years of people not trying to do anything to give them their land back. Now you have quote unquote some progress. Even if it's a little, even if you got to go do some research and figure out what to do to get the land back, even if you have to do that to get your land back, it is what it is, right?
But how do you assess that black people had hotel and beachfront property? They had a thriving hotel. They had a resort. How do you assess the amount of dollars that family lost from 1924 until today?
This is what I'm gonna say, right? It's exactly what I'm gonna say. If somebody comes in and taints your land with oil or gasoline or something like that, and you can't grow a crop for a whole bunch of years, what normally winds up happening is you file a lawsuit. That family definitely can file a civil suit, especially when they give the land back, and try to get those damages. Am I not correct?
Yes,
you're correct.
So then that's what I'm saying. Like, do the numbers, do the economic numbers.
You just gotta have money.
Yeah, or you gotta have it is free. Believe me, there's some lawyer out there that'll take his pro bono. I'm telling you, if they chasing ambulances, they definitely will come get this case. Come on.
Hey, so you know what? I'm gonna give you the short answer, Lamar. Things are actually better nowadays. It's bad, but I'll tell you something. The litmus test for me, just thinking about answering your question that I didn't get to, is just simply this: would I want to be alive right now today, or when my great grandfather was alive, or my father, or whoever? And when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, everything's not fair, but it's gotten better. I don't think. Does anyone feel like we have it worse than what folks had it 50 years ago and 100 years ago?
I'm going to go back to what I said before. It's less severe now. It's still pervasive.
And back then we were more in unity. Back then we had more the idea of what needed to happen and who the enemy was and all of that type of stuff. So I think, that's key too, because now we have a lot of people, again, trying to live the life, live the American dream, quote unquote, but it's compromising to themselves and their family and the collective.
But here's the thing, Lawrence. I'm not gonna hold on. We can't let Lawrence slide on his severe stuff. If you at the doctor, Lawrence, and they say, "What's your pain from 1 to 10?" and you say it's 10, and then the next week you come back and you say, "You know what? It's less severe. I feel that it's about a 5." Then what's the doctor gonna say? "Oh, it seems like you're getting better." Come on, Lawrence. Let's be all the way real about it, man.
Here we go. Once again, let me retort, Lamar.
I'm trying to say something for 20 minutes.
I've been
Oh,
trying
go
to say
ahead,
something for
TJ.
20 minutes. I just want to
That
say
TT.
real quick. I want to quote, it's TT. I want to quote Malcolm X. And he said, if you stand knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, that's
Come
not
on.
progress. If you
Come
pull it
on.
all the way out, that's not progress. The progress comes from healing the wound that the blow made. They haven't begun to pull the knife out. They won't even admit that the knife is there.
Facts.
And so that's why I'm real lost. I'm real confused about this conversation for so many reasons. But I just kind of been listening. We're kind of arguing over it's better or worse. And honestly, that's a conversation that at this junction in the game don't even matter if it's better or worse. Are you happy with what's going on with the world and your community and your families right
Right.
now? If you don't have an emphatic
Yes.
yes for all of them, we got a problem.
Yes.
We have a problem. And I'm
I
saying
am
this as a
happy.
descendant of
That's
Tulsa
you though,
massacre
brother.
survivors.
But
I'm
Sharif, you should be
saying
happy too, my
that
good brother.
Saudi
I can't when I know my brothers are still getting their knees kneeled on and things like
But
have a
that.
brother, this
Because
is
I
what
have
I'm
a
saying.
beautiful life.
Here's what I'm telling you. I'm
I
talking
have a
about
beautiful life,
I'm
a
talking about the
beautiful
fact
family.
that you know, listen, Sharif, I'm talking about the fact that you know that me and you together can do some stuff, right? Where our brothers ain't gotta get their knees built, get their head knelt on. You dig what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Am I happy? Yes. You know why I'm happy? Because I got Black Bitcoin Billionaire. You know why I'm happy? Because I got these mods in here that are teaching people every day. You know why I'm happy? Because we got unity amongst a small group of us. Even if it ain't all of us, I'm happy. That's what I'm saying.
Understood.
You get me? That's what I'm talking about. Like if we sit here and go, no, I'm not happy. I'm not. Come on, man. Like we have to take some solace in the fact that we are building and we are working together. A wall takes
I'm
time.
excited about it. I'm excited about it, Lamar. Please don't take my quote as saying I'm unhappy with life. I have an amazing life. You know, my life is beautiful. I have a
Yes,
beautiful
very much so.
family. I have a beautiful community. I'm active in my community. I'm an active citizen. I'm a global citizen. So I'm not saying this, and I'm a huge optimist. Actually, huge optimist. I'm extremely optimistic.
Stop the screw, sis.
Can't hear you, sis. Can't hear you. She's optimistic. The signal's going to get better. Let her talk.
Metro PCS. That's the only thing in her life she's mad about.
Can you hear me?
Said Metro
Now we hear you.
PCS. Now we can.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm in Florida and we got a hurricane coming through. So
In the
Hey,
midst of that, you
I'm
still happy.
happy.
That's
I'm
what I'm
happy
talking
you're
about.
safe.
Look, I'm
I'm
happy
still
in the midst of your hurricane. You still happy. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
in a minute, hello. So I don't want it to be misconstrued that I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist. I just want us to be clear that I'm not giving people no cookies and clapping hands for doing what the fuck they're supposed to do for people. I'm not giving people hand claps and cookies because they decided that they want to have a little bit of humanity. I'm just not. And I have a high level of grace towards people. All I'm saying is since we're in a better position, because I do agree that things are better. I also agree that things are different because our suicide rates are a lot higher now than they were 200 years
That's right.
ago too.
Facts.
So let's be clear.
Been
There's a lot of elements at play here, and this is a very nuanced conversation. That's why I'm very excited. There's a lot of voices speaking on it. But I just want to say I'm not interested in giving nobody no hand claps for doing something good one time or two times. I don't give a shit if they gave somebody their land back because this shit don't even
right.
belong to us anyway.
Right. Give us
This,
all of it back.
give it to indigenous people who were here beforehand, whether you are Black indigenous or Native American indigenous or whatever. Give it back. You know what I'm saying? They give these little crumbs out and we be excited. That frustrates me a little bit
Without
because it's like,
question,
Listen,
without having to
and I can.
pay and go research and all of that. Because they didn't research coming.
but listen. All of this stuff be tripping me out.
Well,
Because in one breath we want the land back, and the other breath we want to make sure that it's like my man. It's like my man just said in the back channel. Black people have become spoiled. Like our forefathers went through way more than have to go get some paperwork done, even probably to get the land in the first place. The ancestors before them had to get to the place to get the land.
They
All
was
this,
gonna come see you.
that's what I'm saying. We sitting over here talking about some dang on paperwork. Just do the paperwork, get your land back, and let's build.
Lamar,
Like, that's
it's
what I'm
very
saying.
disrespectful for you to say just paperwork because it takes so much energy and so much resources for them to fight to get their land back. So what it's being amounted to now is called deterrence. It's deterring them from actually receiving the land without further fight.
But that's what I'm saying. Our forefathers.
Death is a major deterrent.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The people who came before us, they dealt with way more than deterrence. They dealt with the possibility of sure death. That's what I'm saying.
Easier to deal with because it's not it's more mental now. Now it's a sickness in the mind that you don't even have. You don't even have the ability or the fight. You know what I'm saying?
Sharif, so you telling me
like
that having to go, you telling me to having to go to the state house, but it doesn't matter, Sharif. You telling me to go to the state? Somebody muted Sharif, didn't they? You telling me to go to the state house, go do some research and figure out through some microfiche or whatever you have to do at the library is worse than the potentiality of you getting split from your children?
I won't say worse. I won't say worse. Let's go back to different. So because we're comfortable,
But why is the better
because
work
we're
conversation
comfortable.
even important?
Exactly.
Because here's the thing. Let me tell you why it's important.
Do now that we couldn't do then.
Right. And if
Yes,
if we
and
don't
that's the
recognize
thing,
that we are in a
everybody's
better
acknowledging
position, if we don't recognize we're in a better, no, they're not, Lawrence. If we don't recognize we're in a better position, then we'll feel like like those people that were back then that felt like they couldn't get off the plantation.
I don't understand. I don't understand why someone bringing up the reality of the struggle that people do possess today means that they are not optimistic, or they're saying that there's not progress.
But see, you listening all wrong.
Let me finish, Lamar. Let me finish, Lamar.
You
Let me finish,
listening
Lamar.
all
Let me
wrong.
finish, Lamar.
Like I don't understand.
No, let me complete my statement so you can understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Let me get to the end of it. It's short. All I'm saying is that every struggle is relative, right? What I'm saying is that the struggle shouldn't exist. I'm not going to compare somebody filling out paperwork with somebody who had to defend their land with their actual life. What I'm saying is this specific group of people shouldn't have these struggles in that era or in this one. And this is why I keep saying, and I'm not just saying it to be funny, the struggle is less severe, but the struggles are still pervasive. They're prevalent. They have not disappeared. They are still here. They're just different. And that does not mean that I'm not acknowledging progress, and that does not mean that I'm not ultra optimistic about the future of our country and our position in it, because things are less severe. That's all I'm saying.
But this is what you're saying. Listen. The only statement I've ever made is that we are in a better position now. That's it.
And a lot of us agree.
And I said better is not a sufficient word to describe the condition.
But you said less severe. So my whole question is it not better to have less severe pain? Like this is semantics, dog.
Yes,
that's what
it
I'm
is,
saying.
but better
But when you say yes, it is. But the suicide rate is up for all types of people, not just black.
Yeah, but brother, we talking about us. We
This-
talking
again,
about
but hold
us.
on, but what I'm saying is
no,
if
hold on,
it's
hold on,
prevalent-
because
if it's prevalent in society-
the first attack is on a. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the original. This who we talking about us. The most influential, the strongest man on the planet is the black man. And I don't care what anybody says. So for the process of us being lessened in that warrior fight to make it more paperwork is what I'm saying. Like there's a lot more things going on now that makes the black man not want to go out and fight for his land. There's a lot more things that make him more subjective to just going to work and being okay with that because it's the way the system. Like I mean that kind of goes into that spoiled thing, but it's not spoiled in a good way. We just pacified. It's like
that's the question though, Sharif. Who is that on? Is it on? Here's my question to you. Again, is it on the elephant or is it on the man that tied him to a stick?
The elephant still has to realize his power.
That's what you just said. You just put the accountability on the elephant.
Absolutely. But
what I'm saying is
ignore what the root is.
I'm not at all. Nobody ignores that.
Still,
listen, nobody ignores that at all. I've said that 450. I've argued it every day on this platform. We understand what the root is. We are talking amongst ourselves right now. We are talking amongst all of us. We all understand what the root is. We learn this every day. We get this in our church. We get this at home, brother.
And also just to add to, I also played a doctor on TV, so I'm just speaking to the fact that Lamar talked about the wound getting better, and it's because you don't feel the pain. It doesn't mean that it's getting better. Sometimes it can mean that it's gotten so bad that you can no longer feel it. So it's your body's way of shutting down. So just speaking to that aspect, but
Shock.
I do agree
that
we have gotten better. I do agree that we have gotten better in certain areas.
But most of y'all said y'all agree with that, right?
Yeah, no, not everybody.
But
Not everybody.
let
This is
me
my last
can I
statement.
add?
This is my last
Oh, go
statement.
ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
It's only two sentences, and
No,
that's
you fine, brother. Please go
thank
ahead.
you. Again, we all have different lenses, but we're heading in the main direction, right? And I think that with all these perspectives and different points, everybody doesn't really have to agree that things are getting better or not. I think what helps is that we all continue to contribute whatever we're contributing to help continue to build this path of freedom. So whether or not we agree things are getting better or not, or whatever the semantics is that we're playing, as long as we're all agreeing to keep contributing towards it, we're good.
TT, I'm gonna ask you a question because I know you about to talk. TT's about to talk
too, bro.
Miss TT,
Yes,
are you or
I
are
just
you
wanted to
are you
say
or are you not a medical professional?
I am.
So when you say why does better or worse matter? Why does better or worse matter in anything? Like if somebody comes into you, do you ask them if they're feeling better? If they have less pain? See, so that it matters a whole lot because what it does, you know what it does from a psychological standpoint, from a physical standpoint. Like you understand it if it's getting worse that you're gonna have to diagnose it.
Pain? What is
If-
the pain?
I want to add a little caveat.
Yeah, go ahead, sister.
You know this, Lamar, because I said this in our conversation the other day. My grandfather will be 103 on September 6th, and he and I talk a lot about a lot of things. And one thing that is very hard for him to wrap his mind around is like the crack cocaine epidemic, right? Because even though that was the beginning of it was, in the the late 70s, early 80s, coming in through everything. He was an old man then. You know what I'm saying? And so I understand what you're saying by things are better. Sure, things are better. I can do I can own land, I can own property, I can move around relatively freely, so there's better in that aspect. But I understand when folks are saying that there's some different things about it. He at 100, born in 1918, was like, this is beyond a devastation that I know. And this is somebody who is a centurion. You know what I mean? A centenarian. And so this is I understand what they're saying because there's things that are happening now that our elders and our ancestors have zero reference for. Nothing. And there's stuff that they experienced and went through that we have zero reference for. You know what I mean? So there's some differences there and there's some similarities, and trying to hash out the details on if that is better or worse is super counterproductive from my perspective, because we literally could have taken this time and put down, you know what I'm saying, brick laid different kind of network type of things. And I know that's what y'all do outside of these conversations when y'all are talking, and this is a whole movement in itself right here. So I understand that. But I'm saying we expend a lot of energy kind of going around in circles talking about, well, it was a little better here, it was a little worse here. There's 7 billion, 8 billion people in this world with 8 billion different perspectives, experiences, and way that they are interpreting, perceiving life. There's epigenetics that are at play, things that are altering our DNA and how we're processing information. We have different neural circuitry and how we are viewing and experiencing the world. And we're trying to go back and forth about something that's very subjective. Better or worse is subjective. It's not really objective. It's not something we can measure in the lab. And, that's why it's hard when you try to come in with hard statistics on this type of conversation. You lose people sometimes. And so it's very important that, we don't spend a lot of time splitting hairs over stuff. I mean, it's good to check in to figure out if we're moving in the right direction for sure. But let's make sure in our engagements and everything that we do that we not dwell on it too long, because we have work to do. All of us know that. That's why we're all here. All right, continue, beautiful people.
Thank you,
Hey,
sis.
ma'am, how would you fix it? Like, can we hit on some of the
Well,
solutions?
well, hold up. I think Reggie was next.
That dude is the best.
Reggie ain't even
go after
here. You
Lauren?
Corey,
crazy
bro,
as
you a
heck, Corey.
legend, boy.
Corey's ridiculous, boy.
Legend.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I like that, Freddie. I like that. So yeah, could you please answer that?
Tam, you chopped the screws.
Answer Lauren's
Tam, you have got to
question.
get off Metro PCS.
And,
Nah, it's not Metro, it's
can
Nextel.
y'all hear me a little bit better?
There she go.
She's
Yeah.
over on the ham radio.
I got to get out of the boonies. Exactly. I'm in the boonies. We ain't even got
Sprint's still alive?
cell phone poles out here. So right. So can I answer Lawrence's question? My personal belief on where we start with any kind of progression, where we can even start with coming to an understanding or a general consensus, not everybody, but general consensus on what we're looking like and how we're progressing. It has to start with
Wait,
Oh,
hey,
wow.
was about to
Oh,
be,
wow.
that was about to be profound right there, boy.
That's what my grandmother
Somebody
said.
put
Starts
that
in
to
the
us,
home. My
Boy,
fifth-
she was
my
about to
minister
say
say,
something right there. I'm
Put
telling
that
you.
to us.
That was a cliffhanger. Tune in next week.
Lamar, can we
To be
do it?
continued.
have the ability to do that.
Can each
I
person
have
give?
the,
Tam,
I have the ability
Tam, you don't have the ability to speak right now. That's the problem.
to
Can someone tell me how to connect to Clubhouse with the Edge network like everybody else?
Oh.
What? Hello. Feel
Tam,
better?
There you go, Tim.
Tam, you just got it. Look,
All right.
I'm gonna
back
have
on
to. You got
Wi-Fi.
to. We gonna start calling you Teddy P because I think you better let it go. Let it go.
Talk to us,
That
sis.
was
What's up?
good.
Okay. So my thing is with 58% of the Black community, African Americans being considered illiterate, right? And understanding that literacy is not just the ability to recall and read words off of the paper, but actual comprehension. Okay, this is literally the Achilles tendon when it comes to people actually progressing in this space and what I believe. Okay, if I read things and I never understand what I'm reading, what benefit does it do me to read? What benefit does it do me to read it? Right? We have to really focus on the reason why I cannot agree with you, Lamar, in that, like, we can't keep talking about the past. The reason why we have to talk about the past and the reason why is because
Hold up, Tam.
our people.
Hold
listen,
up.
listen what I'm
Hold
saying.
up.
Listen, wait,
Hold
no,
up.
no,
I'm
no,
not gonna
wait,
let you
whoa,
say that
just
we
for a
ain't gonna
second.
talk
No,
about the
no,
past.
you know
Nope.
what I'm saying.
Nope. You ain't gonna be sitting up here lying on me, Tam. You ain't gonna be sitting up here lying on me, Tam.
Okay.
Because you know good and well I have never said we shouldn't
I
talk about
know.
the past. Ever.
I'm meaning what I meant to say. Let me correct. Like I said, just give me a second. Let me correct. What I'm meaning to say is that not that we cannot. The reason why we cannot look at to see the comparison, right, on feelings of the past. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about our feelings, right? When statistically, okay, we're still seeing the same results as we did then, right? This is personally, my personal belief is that it's because of comprehension of what we read, right? We're not understanding the effects of the money system, right, from the past. We're not understanding the actual, comprehending the actual effects of the things that we're reading. And so that we can understand how on today, even though it might have changed clothes, the same things are happening, not just in real estate, in financial spaces, right? Think about in social media, how these apps are coming out and people are able to make money, but you constantly hear how Black content creators are being silenced, are being shadow banned so that their messages can't get out, right? For us, it has to start with reading and comprehension. And then it has to go on to where we support each other and the people that do want to get the messages out and are able to do the same things that Black churches did for us when it came to understanding the importance of voting, right? Getting behind the people who are evangelizing this message, right? Who understand the concepts, then walking our people through, just like they did in Bible study, right? Walking our people through in a way familiar to them. So then they understand how
how they're supposed to comprehend what they're reading. I think that we miss that mark by just telling people go research. You know, some people can't even research the stuff that's like important to their health, right? Somebody right now has the sugars because they don't know specifically that they have diabetes, like type 2, and they don't really know what that means. They know the doctor told them to do this, blah, blah, right?
I'm going to do you like I did Freddie. What we basically are discussing here, right, is if things are better now than they were, and you're saying that things are the same. That's what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that at its core, it's the same. And because at the core, it's the same, just because it changed clothes doesn't make it any better.
So you're saying it's different, like Miss Kim was saying earlier.
Yes,
it's not better, but it's different.
It's not better. It's just different.
Okay.
What is better, and what is better? What are we saying is better? I think that's what we're all confused at.
Okay, so
for
me, improve. That's what it means. Yeah, thank you very much. What I'm saying is, and this is my argument, it's the thesis, right? Is that the systems have gotten better. Right? The systems of oppression and racism in this country have gotten better. We don't have the same laws on the books. There are still some, and some people said many, but they're not all the same laws on the books that have been put into place to basically hold us down. That's what I'm saying, that is becoming better. The fact that land has been taken from us and now they're making amends with it and giving land back, and also awarding $1.25 billion to people who had lost those lands. Like, that is getting, to me, that's
I guess we got to
better.
agree. We got to agree because we got 7 billionaires now. We didn't used to have any, so I'm with you.
Hey, and
Can I ask you a question, Lamar?
Greg said, I got to go back to court, man. I'm done.
Can I ask you a question, Brother Lamar?
Yes, ma'am.
Using the Malcolm X quote, let's say 200 years ago, the knife was pushed in 9 inches. How many inches you think is pulled out?
Let's see. I'm gonna see. No. Let's see. How many inches are pulled out? No more chattel slavery. Voting. Matter of fact, voting laws are getting way better. We see what happened in Georgia. We see what happened in Georgia. Let's say land ownership. If you want to go buy the land, the problem is from an economic standpoint, and that's what I was gonna get to with Tam. From an economic standpoint, it just once it gets taken, that gap gets crazy. Once you get the land taken from you and all your stuff taken from you, so it's hard to be like, well, we worse off now. The truth is, it's just because the moment that it was taken made us worse off. So that could have been in 1910. The repercussions and the results of what happened then is why we are in a bad state now, right? That's just from the whole idea of compounded interest. So from an economic standpoint, that's a very difficult thing to say, except for the fact that now we do have self-made billionaires and millionaires, many of them, not just the Madam C.J. Walkers. You feel what I'm saying? So I think that we probably got about 5 inches out. I think we got about 5 inches out, to be honest with you.
The knife?
She said 9 inches. She said 9
400
inches.
years long.
5 out of
400
9?
years long and
I think we about 5 out of 9. I truthfully believe
That's
that.
called an improvement.
That's an
called
improvement. But here's the problem.
But it's not
That's
called
not what Malcolm said.
Yeah, but
That's not what Malcolm
I don't
said.
care what Malcolm said.
I read all Malcolm.
Yeah, I don't care what Malcolm
I love
said.
Malcolm, but he made progressive moves too.
Yeah, I don't care what Malcolm said in that environment. Like some things I agree with Malcolm, some things I don't. But my whole thing is not to not recognize progress is a way to stall additional progress. Because if you don't recognize progress, you cannot move forward into additional progress, because that means you're always trying to fix in the back instead of realizing, okay, that wound is healed. Yes, I have a keloid from it, but I'm going to continue to keep moving. Or my arm got cut off. Yes, it did get cut off, and it was a bad situation of why it got cut off, but I'm going to figure this thing out with no arm. And there is progress.
And isn't that why we have tests? Isn't that why we test things to see where the progress is?
Right.
Hey,
yeah.
So can we almost transition a little bit to the further progress? So I agree, we've made progress, right? But we spent time discussing the issues. Can folks just kind of throw out what things you would do to make things better in your community. I
Okay,
go to
we're gonna
volunteer
do
work.
this. We're gonna do this. That's a good question. Let's hold it off. We're gonna do this outside of YouTube and everything else. We're only gonna do this on Clubhouse. It's to be like Tam said, it's our church. So hold on real quick. Let me go on close this thing down. So we're gonna have solution outside of here. Let's get this thing
And so
going.
while
So yeah,
Lamar's doing
welcome.
that,
So y'all, thank y'all very much for coming to thank y'all for coming to the Genesis Block this morning. This had really gotten into a really great conversation. This will be one for the ages. It's recorded on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, many places. So if you want to catch this again, make sure if you want to share this so people can hear what we were talking about, make sure you share this with all your friends and family. But now we're about to get into a deeper conversation. If you want to join that conversation, Clubhouse is wide open and it's free right now. All you got to do is go to, I guess, Clubhouse, whatever it is, join Clubhouse and find the Black Bitcoin Billionaires. You can come in and join in this conversation, but we're going to continue this conversation with some solutions. So thank y'all, everyone. We appreciate y'all for listening to us today. But until next time, live love, love life.